Good evening, everyone. We're going to call to order the June 13, 2022 East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 meeting. Roll call commissioners, Commissioner Ogeron, Lambert, and Casso are absent. Now we're going to move into the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, we ask your blessings on this meeting tonight. Please keep us respectful of one another. Keep us to truth. Keep us to our hearts in serving the people of the citizens of Ascension Parish with regard to drainage issues. Please help us and protect us during this hurricane season. Keep us safe from harm and damage. Protect the health, safety, and welfare of all of our citizens. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, moving on to item number 3, public comments. If anyone would like to comment on any of the agenda items, please come see Miss Leslie over here. She'll give you a red or green card to fill out, and that way you will be allowed your 3 minutes to speak on an agenda item. Additions to agenda, I do have a request for an addition to tonight's agenda. It would take unanimous consent, and I'm going to defer to Mr. Cagg, and he'll explain what we got.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was approached by a number of constituents who live on the right off of Papera Road on Eva Street, as well as Tiffany, and on the backside, Spillman Road comes into that area. Johnny Berthelot, Jack Carter, and a number of other residents approached me, and there's a drainage ditch that runs through there, and it ties in behind Johnny's house. It's concrete lined right up to Johnny's property line, and then it stopped. And then right there, just 60, 70 feet beyond it, it makes a 90-degree curve, and the outfall goes into the lateral, the Bayou Francois lateral. And what I propose that we do, Davin and them looked at it like 2.5 months ago, and I guess it just kind of fell through the cracks, and I brought it up to Ron again today, and he got with who was that, Ron?
Jack Hartzell.
Hartman Engineering, and they worked up a cost estimate. So what I'm going to ask that we add to the agenda tonight is consider and approve the concrete channel lining of the ditch in question, and ask DPW and purchasing to proceed to get it under contract and get the work done.
All right, that is Mr. Cagnolati's motion to add that to the agenda. Concrete discussion and approval of the concrete ditch lining. We will need unanimous consent to add that to the agenda. I have a motion from Mr. Cagnolati. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll give it a second. That doesn't mean we're voting on it now. We're just adding it to the agenda.
Yeah, we're strictly voting to add it to tonight's agenda. Have a motion and by Mr. Cagnolati, a second by Mr. Lawler. Any opposition to adding to tonight's agenda? Hearing none, that motion passes. Ms. Daigle, we're going to make that item 7J.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yep, you're welcome. Okay, moving on to item number 4, acceptance of the minutes for the approval of May 9th, 2022 meeting minutes. Have a motion by Mr. Wagasback, a second by Mr. Cagnolati. Any opposition? Yep, we have opposition from Mr. Lawler. Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, this, I think there was a slight error in the minutes. I'm trying to scroll down to it. Regarding the resolution, where is it? Resolution to ask municipalities to refuse annexation. There was a motion made by Councilman Wagasback to defer to the next meeting, but it was also to have the administration work with those municipalities and come to us with information on that to work with them. That was brought up during that meeting, And at this point, the records don't reflect that. This came up because I asked for an update from the parish president on this. I asked him to follow through with it on May 12th, 2022, to follow the directives of the EADC. May 31st, I asked for a response to that. Didn't get a response until that afternoon. And he did say that a vote should be taken on whether or not this needs to be done. It's a misunderstanding. We already voted on it. He said he's not in favor of doing it. And he says if the board votes to do it, he will do it, and that he'd be happy to do so. I responded that it was already voted on, and if you look at the video, the meeting was voted on. And I even used his quote, I think we should get with the municipalities, we should exchange information, we should have a conversation as well as see what their standards are versus ours and work together. I think we can work together and exchange a lot of info and try to accomplish the same goal. That was on May 31st. Again, on June 9th, I asked for a response from the parish president, and I don't see why it's necessary for me to keep asking for a response on this. But the part of the problem is the minutes don't correctly recollect or reflect, I should say, what the actual meeting was and what the actual motion was. So that's why I'm objecting to it. And, according to Section C5 of the contract, which we signed with the president, it says that he's supposed to give substantive answers to the commissioners' questions within 3 days. This has been going on for months, and I can't get an answer to something that we actually voted on. We directed the parish president to do it, and it's not getting done. So that's why I'm objecting to the minutes unless they're altered to correctly reflect what was voted on during the meeting, and it was passed unanimously.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to correct the minutes to accurately reflect what was passed during the meeting.
Mr. President.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I also reviewed the video and also looked at it, and we did have discussion, as well as reviewing the comments from the mayor of the town of Sorrento. And after talking with both the city and the town, they don't see any need for any further action. They understand exactly what our rules and regulations say. Whether they want to choose to adopt them or not is up to them. I interpreted that as being tabled on exactly what was said. And so if we are going to proceed and possibly heighten the conflict between the town, which we have an ongoing lawsuit with, as well as the city of Gonzales, I would like to have the board vote on it because it is a very, I would say, very tense situation when we start talking about withholding work from taxpayers who pay the drainage tax, just like every other Ascension Parish resident, as well as saying or holding a stick over other elected officials that have been elected by the public to tell them what they can and can't do, or are you going to withhold drainage work. I think that's a dangerous precedent. I said that last time. And so I'll be happy to do it if the board votes on it. But I think I made my statement clear. I think I was precise. I watched the video as well, interpreted that it wasn't voted on, or directed me to do that, even though a conversation was had. So if the board feels they need to continue down this road, but I'd like to hear from the board members who reside and represent those people in the city and the town to see if they want to continue and what the overall objective really is. And so, but yes, I will be happy to do it if the board puts it on the agenda and votes on it, and I'll be happy to do so. That's all, Chair.
All right, Ms. Lawler.
It was voted on. It's a directive. You're an employee of the East Ascension Drainage Commission. Well, we have a contract that says differently. The fact of the matter of, it was voted on. It was voted on unanimously while we were here. And there's no reason not to do what we said. You're simply being obstinate on this. There's nothing to do with the town of Sorrento or Gonzales that would affect their drainage. We want to look and compare. We may learn from theirs. They may learn from ours. That is all that was passed. It had nothing to do with cessation of work in their districts. What was passed was a comparative study of the two to make sure that they combine and they all work together. That is for the benefit of the entire parish, including the town of Sorrento, including the town of Gonzales. That's what this commission passed. That's what you were directed to do. And for you to refuse to do this would be another violation of the contract that we signed with you. I thought we signed it a long time ago. Apparently, we signed it May 5th, and May 3rd, we have questions on that. But the fact of the matter is, the video is very clear. Regardless of how you may have interpreted it, the words are the words. Regardless of what your conversations were with other mayors of other towns, that has nothing to do with what this commission passed. You were directed to do something. You need to get it done. So that's why I'm making a motion that we correct the minutes of that meeting to accurately reflect that, and we'll touch upon your refusal to act upon our directives later on.
So with no second, we just vote on passing the minutes.
Well, we're still going to have to go back and look at that because we did direct them to
This
do
isn't an
something.
agenda item, and I'm saying we're talking about the minutes. So
That's
if we
fine.
don't have a second, we can vote on passing the minutes.
Second motion.
All right, so, just so we're clear, so Mr. Lawler's motion is to add to our minutes saying that
To accurately reflect.
to accurately reflect that the commission requested parish president and staff to compare drainage ordinances with our municipalities within the
Correct.
parish.
Had nothing to do with cessation of any work or anything, just a comparison. That was the motion by Councilman Wagasback.
All right, let's see, I have all right, Mr. Wagasback, comment?
I was just going to make a comment. I mean, could we defer voting on it? I mean, considering that we're voting on something that, you know, us up here, we can't review the video right here. So, I mean, who would actually do a ruling on that to see if the minutes were accurate?
I think we kind of got to vote on it now.
Shit.
No, we didn't.
Hang tight.
Yeah, I
hang-
wouldn't, I'm
Hang
just,
tight.
I'm posing the question I mean, should we defer the vote since I would be voting on something I'm not sure is accurate or not. I mean, he's saying that something's not accurate. Somebody would have to go watch the video. I don't know who does that, but I'm just saying if it's not accurate, it should be accurate if we're voting on it.
We can all watch the video. It's on Channel 21. You made the motion.
Is that it, Ms. Wagasback?
I mean, that would be my substitute motion.
That we table it till we can watch
To
the-
table it till the next
I'll second
drainage
that.
meeting.
Okay, so we now have a substitute motion to table the minutes for May 9th, 2022 until our next meeting to where the video can be more properly reviewed, make sure the minutes are correct. Motion by Mr. Wagasback, a second by Mr. Lawler, and Mr. Mason, comment?
I was gonna see if legal would review the video, so that way we get a legal opinion on the video.
Are you okay with that?
I'm good with that. I
Thank
will
you.
review the video as well. I plan on doing that.
Okay.
We can all look at it, but I'd rather get a legal opinion. If we're gonna go this far, we're gonna go this far.
We can probably get a transcript of it.
Oh, I like that too. Thank you.
All right, a motion and a second. Any objection to deferring May 9th's official minutes? Hearing none, that motion passes. Moving on to Chairman's Reports Announcement, we have a quick little presentation by Mr. Major Coleman. He is the Regional Director for the State Office of Rural Development. Mr. Coleman, please, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board. My name is Major Coleman, a native of St. Helena Parish. I attended Southern University. I got a degree in mechanical engineering. I served on the Police Jury Board as Vice President, served on the Commerce and Industry Board appointed by the Governor, served 3 terms as St. Helena Parish Police Jury. And what I am to do today is to introduce a program that the Governor has started. It's a rural revitalization of Louisiana. And back in 2020, in February, at our police jury meeting in Shreveport, the governor announced that he was establishing an advisory council to go and take a look at the rural areas and find out what their needs and concerns were. And this council was a 37-member council. And some of you guys may know that the chief of staff, Senator Ben Nevels, ex-senator and chief of staff, was chairman of that board, of that council. And they were to come back with a strategic plan in 2021 with a comprehensive plan on how to address the issues of the rural areas. And what he has done is they have broken the state up into 8 regions, and they mimic all of the development, the planning and development regions, and Capital Region is one of those regions. And what he's done is did four regions as a pilot, and the Capital Region is one. We have Imperial Calcasieu is one, and I have a hard time saying this word, Costache, Delta, and the North Delta. And what he's done, he's employed 4 regional state directors, and what we are to do is to go to the rural areas and be liaison between the rural stakeholders, federal government, and state government, and bring back whatever they need, if we can, which would be, some areas have technical problems, some have financial problems. So the governor has decided that with all the funds that's coming down through the CARES Act and the infrastructure money and the American Rescue Funds, he feels though if the rural areas is not proactive on getting those funds, then they will be left behind again. So, and there's nine focal points that this council looked at, and it was agriculture, broadband, clean water, economic development, education, finance and housing, health care, infrastructure, and workforce development. And this council has to put together a strategic plan, and you guys can see this plan if you go and look at, I think it's Louisiana Economic Development's website. It's a comprehensive plan on how we are to attack or address those issues in the rural areas. And the 4 regions that I mentioned are the pilots, and there's 8 regions, and actually we're starting with 4 right now. And sometime later on this year, I think the other one will be coming on board because they had, I think they had some funding in the House Bill 1 or 2 to fund the other 4 regions. The first 4 regions, which the pilot region, was funded through OCD, the Office of Community Development. And I am privileged to say that I am selected to be the Capital Region, which your parish is in that region. I will be that regional state director for the Capital Region. And I will be reporting to the State Office of Rural Development, headed by Noble Ellerton. So I'll be the boots on the ground. You guys will probably see me running around in the rural areas. And I had a rude awakening when I was coming in. I met with the Gonzalez up there. You know, I'm in the rural, and they told me that, you know, it'd be 17 minutes when you get there, but I didn't count red lights and all that. We don't have red lights in St. Helena Parish. We don't have the train. I got to the train track, and the train was there, and I was like, I said, man, these guys are not rural. You guys got it going on over here. So I like what I see, but if I could be any help to any of your rural areas, and I'll be going around to each one of my parishes. There's 11 of them. And introducing myself and telling them that I'm here to help, and whatever we can do, whether it be technical assistance or funding. You know, serving as a police juror, I found out that we were lacking there in technical assistance. So the governor is going to try to bring help to that, and of course funding. The rural areas have a problem with match money. All the money coming in, if you don't have match money, you can't use it. I had to turn a project around when I was police juror because we couldn't match the money. So I'll be the boots on the ground. If you guys know if anybody needs any help, I'll be getting around. I'll be making my rounds and letting everybody know who I am and where I'm from and what I'm doing. Thank you for your time, Mr. Chairman. You guys have
Thank you,
a good
Mr.
day.
Coleman.
Y'all have any questions for me?
Yeah, Mr. Cagnolati?
If you would make your contact information
Yes.
before you leave, just provide it to the secretary so we can
Okay.
all have it, okay?
Well, right now I'm housed at the Capital Region Planning Commission. We be working closer with them.
Okay.
So I have an email address, and I'll be using my cell phone. They hadn't got all that stuff together yet,
Okay.
but I'm on the ground running.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Coleman. Let's see. All right, moving along to our drainage report. Mr. John Monzon, H&TB, with our monthly floodplain management update.
Okay. That's your own. There we go.
There we go.
All right. Good evening. Going to give you an update as to work that we've done through June 7th. Last week's board meeting got canceled, so the date's out of line. But I'm going to talk about the schedule and everything we've done thus far: data collection, the watershed initiative, design criteria. I don't know if this is the right presentation. Hold on a second. Okay, sorry about that. Nope, wrong one.
Ew,
That was last year's presentation.
that was nasty.
Wrong date.
Is that how we flood Candlestick, I hope?
Yeah. Must have been a concert. They don't have that many 49ers fans.
It's Grateful Dead or something.
I'm look at one I sent to Ron real quick. There we go. All right, right one this time. Here we go. So, I'm gonna have to scroll by hand because it's a PDF. So we are currently in a 15 out of 18 month schedule. You'll see the work that we have left at a couple of slides. So we have 3 months to turn this in tentatively by the end of August. This is where we are right here. As you can see, we have a lot of work left to be done, especially in the proposed modeling, benefit cost analysis, and the risk reduction report, and obviously QA/QC review. This is the status of the additional survey. This is the survey that's being performed right now. It's not going to be used for the floodplain management plan, but it's additional survey on tertiary and secondary and tertiary channels that are going to be important for maintenance plans for the parish. So this is being done by CSRS right now. The main point of this right here, I wanted to show you what our models have produced in the 4 basins. This is Bayou Manchak from left to right, Henderson, Bayou Conway, and Marvin Bro. This is what the inundation looks like for a 6-inch rainfall event over a 24-hour period. It's been verified, and so you can see most of the inundation is in low-lying areas and inside of inside of the major channels and waterways in the parish. Obviously, you'll see here this is Bluff Swamp that has a lot of ponding in some of the lower-lying areas, and then in Henderson Bayou out towards the Amite, and then some of the lower-lying areas outside of Sorrento, and then Marvin Bro. It's surprising, you know, how many waterways Ascension Parish has. We include all the interior channels, but you can clearly see that pretty much being maintained, or the depth of flooding is mostly near the channels. So in the identification of problems and development of risk mitigation strategies, we're looking at identifying the problem areas. I picked this one just as an example. What you're seeing here is the inundation, and the yellow dots are potential flooding, properties that have the potential to flood during that 10-year event. That's not saying that they're flooding right now. This is just what the model is showing. So to combat that, we're proposing some risk mitigation project development strategies, such as taking open fields, converting them into detention ponds, and you can see what that would look like. The feature you see here on the right would be like a levee or a small dike to keep the water levels in, with an overflow channel. When the water gets above that, it will drain out, or it can be pumped out to drop the water levels inside of that detention basin. We're using that to develop a cost-benefit analysis and prioritization tool. Some of these will have BCAs in excess of 0.7 all the way to maybe at 1.5. So when we propose the projects that we're going to turn in, you'll see the cost-benefit analysis and and the cost of the project. So you can use that as a tool to pick the projects that that will make the most economic sense. The report status, we submitted the 60% floodplain management report May 31st, and it had all of these appendices. Some of these appendices are in final form. Some of these are in draft. There will need some comments to be made to submit on the final floodplain management report. And the final floodplain management report is expected to be turned in on August 31st of this year. So as I mentioned earlier, you saw the Gantt chart. We have a lot of work to be done, but we're putting additional resources into it, and hopefully we can get that done. So any questions on the floodplain management update?
Any questions for Mr. Monzon? No questions, Mr.
Thank you.
Monzon. If you want, we'll go ahead and roll right into
I have the next one too, right?
item 6B,
Adapt.
our DAP plan.
Yeah, I got that one. Okay. All right, so I'm going to present to you, this is going to be the first presentation on an update to the ADAPT program. Quick timeline right here from the time that the RFQ was advertised in March of this year to the time that I'm making this presentation here. You can see that parish officials moved pretty quickly to get this RFQ out on the street and awarded. What we're looking for right now is we're trying to get the contract signed, and so the implementation will begin after the contract is executed, but I believe we're very close to that. So what are we going to do with the ADAPT program? So we're going to take a portfolio of capital projects, and we're going to manage the capital projects from pre-construction through project closeout, including funding, state and federal requirements, permitting, right-of-way, and public outreach. So currently, right now, you have some projects that are under pre-construction. They haven't quite started yet, such as the Marvinboro Levee System Upgrade, the LA-22 Gapping Project, which is being designed by McKim-McCreed, Bayou Conway Sorrento Pump Station Expansion. This is a BKI project, and that's just to list a few. Some of the other projects that are under construction, such as the New River Channel dredging being handled by H. Davis Cole, and the Fish Bayou culverts by McKim-McCreed. So those are the type of projects that we're looking to work on or manage under the program that are under pre-construction or under construction. And then finally, the 30 projects that are going to come out of the floodplain management project. Those are all high-level conceptual projects. And then once the parish decides which way they're going to go with it, which ones they're going to implement, we'll go ahead and manage those projects as well from a program standpoint of view. So this is the ADAPT team. We have ELOS Environmental to do the environmental permit and inspections. The SJB group is going to be handling some of the survey work as necessary. Civics for right-of-way acquisitions. Laterre Engineering, they're a DBE on the team. They're going to be handling planning and helping us with planning and schedules, some grant support, and also some inspections. And then Emergent Method for public outreach. This is what the team organization looks like. I just want to show that to you. There's a lot of folks that are going to that we have available to get this program going and make sure that it's successful. So as an overview, the program manager, his role is going to be the single point of contact for the parish. The program is going to be scalable based on program needs and budget. We're going to handle planning, design, and construction management and provide subject matter expertise for consistent program delivery. We will provide drainage expertise, including multi-use regional detention facilities, channel improvements, screen infrastructure, pumping stations, and levee systems. Some of the services under the ADAPT program will be program strategy, funding, whether it's through grants or any other additional funding that may be available, project controls and data management, procurement support, tracking budgets, public outreach and stakeholder coordination, preparing cost estimates, monitoring schedules, validating project costs, recommendations for project delivery, and management of project teams. All of that is going to be handled through 5 subtasks, with the first one being the program administration, second one being program controls, third one being pre-construction management and design oversight, and the fourth one being construction management and inspection services. The 5th subtask will be there throughout every step of the way. Obviously, public information and outreach can be used at any point in time, but the public outreach will be available every step of the way. So some of the early activities that we're looking to get going is funding and governance, identify and try to get some grants into, for any particular project. Getting the funding and governance information either currently associated or potentially available to fund Ascension Parish drainage projects. Data management, identify, curate, and organize for analysis, management, and project optimization. Funding, intergovernmental agreements, contracts, change orders, expenditure, deliverable status, detailed status for each project. I know it's a lot, but we believe that data management is very important early on. And then procurement. Support the parish with upcoming procurements with expertise on delivery methods, prioritization, and risks. And then finally, budget and schedule control. Assist the parish to establish a master program, schedule, and costs with detailed schedules and costs by project and contracts. And so that is it. I want to thank you for your time, and I'll address any questions if you have any.
Yeah, Mr. Cagnolati.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. John, just a quick question. A lot of the tasks you mentioned, 1 through 4 and 5, is this just an overall program management? Because if we've got Davis Cole and others, managing these projects, what I'm trying to say is we don't need to duplicate the effort. And please explain why we're not.
So on a program level, so currently the parish has 7, maybe 11 consultants designing lots of projects in the parish. Some of those are being done through cooperative endeavor agreements with like Pontchartrain Levee District. On a programmatic level, we're going to manage those consultants, be a single point of contact to Ron and parish officials to make sure that the projects are moving along as scheduled. We're going to check budgets. We're going to check milestones to make sure that they're moving along at the right amount of time. So it's kind of hard to manage 14 consultants who have maybe 2 or 3 contracts or projects going on at the same time during different phases. Another thing we're going to try to implement, design projects are submitted at 30, 60, 90% final design projects. So I don't think that there's right now currently a set of standard guidelines as to what is a 30% set of plans, what constitutes a 60% set of plans. A lot of that guidance is being done by some state entities like DOTD that have set guidelines for what constitutes a 90% set of plans. And we're going to make sure that, we implement those guidelines so that everyone's on the same page. So it's more for programmatic, big picture management.
The big picture, and those all come with a cost.
Absolutely.
Can you explain to us what the funding is and where it's coming from?
One of the things that we also strive to do is, as we've been very successful in grant management, procuring grants for the parish. So if we have a project that is very important to the parish, we're going to try to go after those grants, whether it's IIAJ, infra grants, any other funding sources that we can provide to stretch the parish's dollars. So, some of these, have a 30-70 match, and so if we can get some grants to get these projects built, I think that's where the added benefit comes into play as well.
Okay. That's all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Lawler.
Hey, John, how you doing? Tell us a little bit about how you're going to interact with Move Ascension, because I saw Jeff Burst as the contact, and that's one of the things I think we could really benefit from overall, coordinating the two.
So this program is very similar to Move Ascension. Jeff has been very successful in growing the program, finding grants, working with DOTD, and getting these transportation projects built. As you know, sometimes, transportation projects involve widening of roads, and then the roads and bridges and culverts go hand in hand. So being able to coordinate with the Move Ascension program and the replacement of boxes and culverts, and maybe at the same time, I think there's some synergies there to be able to optimize those dollars as well. So we'll continue to coordinate with Move Ascension and make sure that this program grows just as well as Move Ascension has.
Okay, I think a good example of that for the public to understand is the box culverts under Manchak Acres. It started as simply a road project. However, during your design work, you realize, hey, that's a constriction and flow. There's no point in fixing part of a road and then still having a drainage problem. We went and fixed the whole thing. Now, granted, COVID caused us not to be able to get the supplies we needed and incredible delays on that. That was due to no fault of yours, the administration, the council, or anybody's. It's just a bad issue. But that's a situation that we're going to look forward to in the future, that we're going to coordinate. If we're going to fix a road, let's make sure the drainage is done also. And if we're tearing up a road for drainage purposes, if we can improve the road at the same time, we'll work together on that. So thank you, John.
Absolutely. I think there certainly are synergies there. It makes too much sense to, if you're going to do a roadway improvement and you have a drainage issue associated with that, then go ahead and make the drainage improvement at the same time.
Thank you.
I'll just make one quick comment, Mr. Monzon, is that I'm excited about this. I believe Ron spends, maybe 70-80% of his every day strictly dealing with the 14 consultants on all our different projects and all this. So this is really going to free him up and focus on, his day-to-day activities. And we'll have one point of contact for all these projects. So I'm excited about it. So, welcome and just expanding our partnership. So I'm excited about it. So if there's not any more questions for Mr. Monzon. All right. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to item 6C. Here we got Mr. Davis Cole with H. Davis Cole. Give us an update on the New River New River dredging update.
Thank you. Just a quick update. Ron asked me to come in today and share with y'all what was been going on out at New River. So if we can get the next slide here. How do I do that?
There's a clicker under.
There's a clicker.
Right under the shelf. It's a pull-out.
Oh, look at that. All right. Construction is well underway. If y'all been out there, you've seen a whole lot of dirt being moved. Unfortunately, some of it has wound up on the highway today, and about a week ago, state police have been on top of that. I've told the contractor that they really need to check the tailgates on the dump trucks. Moving forward, I believe that the driver today was cited, so hopefully we won't have any more of that. Drainage excavation, embankment, fill, it's about 25% complete, I would say. At this point, they started on the upper reaches and are moving their way down towards the weir. They have started the permitting process with the Kansas City Southern Railroad. That shouldn't take too long, but you never know. Thankfully, it's towards the ends of the project. They've excavated approximately 7,600 cubic yards of excavated material and placed about 540 cubic yards of embankment fill. So these pictures kind of shows the work in progress. As you can see, they've got this giant amphibious backhoe in the trench. That's what we were waiting on for so long. It's finally showed up, and they're starting to make progress. The contractor's Boone Services, in case y'all don't remember. The next one. This picture is of the aqua dam that they're using to cordon off the different reaches and dewater behind it so that they can perform the excavation activities. Right here on that picture to the right is the placement of some embankment fill, and the purpose of that is we're over excavating the banks to some extent to remove some of the just sloppy, nasty material and putting some embankment fill so to restore the channel to a slope that Ron's guys can maintain with mowers and whatnot. And I believe this is the last one. This one I put in here with the backhoe, and then the one to the right is more or less kind of what the finished section may look like. Obviously, what's going to be hydro-seeded and finished up and graded out at the end, but just the channel is starting to take place in those two pictures. So I believe that's all I got for that one. Any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Lawler.
Sir.
Yeah, Davis, we've had a lot of talk about changing the names of roads in the parish. New River is not a new river. Have we thought about changing the name, maybe Middle Age River, Old River?
We can call it whatever you'd like.
We'll
It is
leave
an old
that up
river.
to you if you
All
want to
right.
get back to us.
I'm going to call it the Dave Davis Cold River. Ascension River, there you go.
All right.
All right, anything else?
I'm not seeing anything. Let's go ahead and move on to item D.
All right.
And you can give us an update on the New River
Yes.
weir project.
We met, I met with the administration last week to finalize plans on the tilt weir. And I wanted to see if I could put up, can I use this over here? Turn it on. Gotcha. Let me find a good, should I go from here? Good one. We'll start with this one. All right, let me see. Here we go, that helps. All right, so can y'all see that? This is what the weir structure will look like looking, I guess, down on top of it. It's got these 4 weir gate structures that will tilt. This is looking straight at it. These, this is a motor operator here, and these, I guess, gates, for lack of a better term, turn to allow the adjustment of the water behind the weir. So this is a close-up picture of the equipment itself. You can kind of see it's got some cables and the gate that holds the water back right there, and I believe it will provide us, I believe it's 4 feet of differential adjustment from the high level to the low level. So we are currently at the, I would say the 95% design phase. The administration requested that we add some instrumentation components to the project, which will be 2 rain gauges and coupled with the stage gauges upstream and downstream of the structure. Also some video surveillance cameras and SCADA capabilities so that they can operate and see, you know, what's going on with the gates themselves remotely from a command center. So we have an effort to make things, I guess, the same. Lack of a better, if there's a fancier word. We're going out to Fish Bayou next week to see what they've done out there. We're going to mimic that on this project, and I'm sure on future projects moving forward, so that we have a cohesive system moving with this project. The billion-dollar question is, when do we get the Corps permit? We've been told any day now. So we did not have to go back out for public notice with this one. ELIS has been handling the Corps permitting, and the guy got off vacation, I think, today. So hopefully this week we'll get a letter in the mail saying we're ready to go. Once that happens, and once we finalize the details of the instrumentation that was added, you know, we should be out to bid by, say, by the end of the month, somewhere in there, depending.
Cool.
Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Cole? Oh, yeah, Mr. White's back.
How long is it going to take to raise and lower the gates? Just curious.
I don't know exactly, but I would say somewhere in the 5 to 10 minute range,
Okay.
something like that.
But all of them are separate, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah, they're all operated completely separately.
Okay.
So if you have one out of service or not working or whatever, you have the other 3 that can take the load.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
All
Cole.
right. Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, item 6E, we're gonna get our monthly drainage report from Mr. Jade Robin.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Board. We bring you our month of May operations report from drainage. In true fashion, we've got a few slides on the front end that we like to see y'all, give y'all an idea what we actually do from a visual view. So last month, we reported that we was transitioning from our FEMA operations through DRC into tree removal through our DPW operations. What we found, and you'll see in a couple of these slides here, was you see green leaves on trees. So some of this stuff didn't qualify. So you'll see where we've worked very hard to identify we put some drone flights out there, identify some trees that we didn't know about, some that weren't reported, and then some existing trees that fell in the meantime to these softer banks with these rainy conditions and things like that. So our team's doing a great job of progressing with this. Some of these smaller canals. Henderson Bayou had 3 or 4. That was how we missed, I don't know, but we was able to get them out at the end of May there, and so I think we're 100% on that canal there. So we move into our off-road ditch digging. Some of these tier 3, 4 type canals, smaller, these guys really appreciate them. They're coming through these neighborhoods on the back side of these homes. Our minor drainage crews do this while our majors are working on these bridges and these larger canals. So we had the Stringer Bridge off-road ditch. You can see how well that was needed. Pin Oak Drive. A lot of these hadn't been done in a while there, so it's going to bring some good bit of relief to these folks. Collapsed culvert. This was something we worked with the school board. They identified, and we were able to respond and help them out. Make sure we could get a crossing for that school bus, get these children to school. Some driveway culverts, sinkhole repairs, and then of course our culvert crew. They've done a very good job of hitting these neighborhoods and cleaning out these culverts. This is something we've seen a lot of benefit with. It's just the amount of debris that's in these culverts and blowing these pipes out. One of the things I want to note is we get into some of these areas that we think are swamp or something, and we're told, hey, we can't do nothing about it. Well, I tell my guys, I say, if we can make it 20% better, that's 20% better than what it is. And what we're finding is we go in there and clean out these culverts, and we get these things to flow a whole lot better. And so it's been a very helpful to put that team together. So I spoke to y'all about we were coming out of our old system into our Munis. One of the things we found building this report, and I want to make y'all aware of that, is we could not change the date range to pull it as a monthly report. So on this pie chart here, this is actually April through the month of May, and I gave y'all a representative of the actual number of work orders with the percentage. So you can see we total around 561 work orders altogether from the start of April when we opened this work order system. And as we're working out old work orders through MGO, we're entering them into this Munis system. So at 561, we've actually closed out 187 work orders in a 2-month, 2-week period. So we're moving along pretty good. A lot of these jobs take 2 weeks to do. So this gives you an idea where we're at. 202 approved. We have 77 projects in process right now. 43 new ones as of this morning. Tomorrow that could be 100. They come in very quick. The 52 on hold you see could be waiting on culverts to just permissions, permits, the obvious things that would hold us up. So this one here, we was able to actually break out the May activities. So this is a true May activity report here. And I'll let y'all kind of review this later through the video because there's a lot of information. But you will notice we're still working with IT. You'll see like manager assignment activities. These are some of the things that we're reassigning what the true jobs are. This will go to the manager, and they're just kind of trying to fan them out where these jobs go within the agency. So hopefully this report gets better and better as we give it. This is our map. Again, this is one we could not do it by the month. Next month, I feel like this isn't an issue. Just our technical guys on vacation this week, so we wasn't able to get it done. But this gives you an idea. April through May, or actually April through today, of your areas and how many work orders have been completed. It's a huge amount. So, major drainage projects that are completed in May: Henderson Bayou at 933, that's Belle Savon, Cemetery Road, Wallace Acres lateral, Wallace Acres outfall box culvert replacements, Vendez ditch behind Tanger Mall. We've got a couple that are in progress that were completed in June that we were working on in May. You'll see the Vincent Tripp ditch, Fish and Frog Bayou, the actual debris removal, the trees was completed. We're in the process of shredding right now. Due to the weather and the water heights in that area during this rain events the last few weeks, we had to pull off for a little bit, but I think we're able to get back in it now. So Joe Severa to Bang Ficklin, that job is just about complete. Alex Rain Road, outfall Highway 22 to Anderson Canal, and Lower Goodine Lateral. Man, that channel, I failed to put pictures in there, and I hate it. That is a beautiful, beautiful job. It is a large canal that brings water through, and it is turning out very nice. It's going to help those guys a whole lot from that interstate back, actually where they're doing that New River project, where it comes into that Goodine at New River. So we're just about 75% from Chester DS to that Goodine right now. Some upcoming drainage projects, no particular order, upper and lower Goodine laterals, and we're just going to stay in those areas. We leave that's Goodine side of Chester DS. We're going to jump to the other side and run it back to the interstate. So Babin Canal shredding, St. Landry to Bayou Conway shredding, Smith Bayou, Interstate to Ashland Road, shred and desnag, Stevenson lateral from Aikens Road to Dago Road, Marty Burat lateral from Merritt Evans to Parker Place, dig it. Joe Boy Road boxes for bridge. So the boxes are on order. You see the note there. And David Drive, double 36-inch culverts. Adenise at L. Landry and 74 culvert crossing. And we have Rogers A. Road culverts. This is something we're adding in for our emergency fuel access to Marvin Bro Station. So this is going to help our in-house fuel supply. This is going to allow a tanker truck to come into Marvin Bro from the backside due to high water and access it from that levee. We found that through the storm we had to put mats in that area, and those guys strategically drove through there. So we want to get ahead of that this year. So we're going to do that in-house and give them some better access. And that's it.
Any questions for Mr. J?
A quick question. Hey, Jade, excuse me. I noticed that, talking about replacing culverts, metal culverts, I think, isn't that like a common problem that we have with metal culverts, that they're collapsing?
Absolutely, they'll rot.
Do you know if we can map those out to kind of predict in the future how many we're going to have and put a cost to it?
So right now, we have two gentlemen. We have our culvert cleaning crew. When he goes out and inspects and blows culverts, he reports back to us how many metal culverts are in a neighborhood. And then we have Mr. Christian Galicki, which is actually our culvert guy who inspects and meets with the residents. He does kind of the same thing. When we send him to an area, he'll map out a street and bring us that back.
Do we have any of that through the planning department? If they, for the neighborhoods, if they planned it, it seems like that would be part of the design, that they would use metal culverts.
Well, yeah. Let Ron explain that, please.
Curious.
No, it's fine. That is included in the drainage plans, all these subdivisions there. And as you know, we adopted to make that obsolete from a material that we use. But all of those drainage plans, and most of this is in subdivisions that had used metal pipes in the servitudes going from streets to ponds and such. So we do have records, and as they come up in the system, we respond and repair them within drainage servitudes. But there are records of all of these subdivision plats that are called out in the engineering design. So we could get an inventory of that through a majority of them.
I just know, I know Pelican Point has an issue with that. A lot of neighborhoods have issues with that. It's going to be a big cost down the road. So it's something we may want to, identify that cost, plan, every year we're going to need X amount of dollars to replace those metal culverts and fix this long-term problem.
I would stress that it's got to be within a public drainage.
No, I agree, but I mean,
Yep.
but if we can identify those, it could be a good long-term plan.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. J.
Thank y'all.
All right, item 6F, we're gonna get our monthly vegetation report from Mr. Johan Samuel.
Good afternoon, everyone. All right, what we got for this month's recap. Give you all an update on the sandbags. Following the approval of the sandbag contract in our last meeting, we have filled up all the sea cans throughout the parish, and we have just shy of 21,000 bags located throughout the parish in sea cans already. We're currently in the process of prepping Barge 1 at Lamar Dixon for our storage of all the pre-filled sandbags and setting up our production line for our 2022 coming storm season. A little bit of something that we're looking into right here. I want to point out there is a drone in this picture. You can see it hovering above the channel. We're currently in the testing and research phase of using one of the parish's drone to apply herbicide to remote areas. We're currently hopefully we'll be applying test areas by the end of June. This is going to allow us to get into a lot of areas where even our small four-wheel drive side-by-side vehicles can't even get into. Do a little spotlight on what our crews have been doing. The left is the before. This was over on Shealy Place. You can see how they were able to reclaim a lot of the vegetation in that area. These two pictures, if you look closely in the bottom, you do see the shimmering water path. This is over on Monticello. These are two our before pictures. Here are two after pictures that our Life Fast crews went in through and cleaned out by hand. Also have some other stuff in Prairieville and Gonzales over on Cannon Road that they were cleaning some smaller ditches off the road. I want to point out the one on the left over on Oakley Lane. Even though it does appear large enough to get a tractor in, if a tractor came within 10, 15 feet of that ditch, they will, of course, get stuck and cause further problems. So this is one of the reasons why our Lifehouse crews have been so instrumental into us completing work orders. Spotlighting our quadrants, mowing and spraying. They were in Prairieville, in the Santa Mall area. Also, the picture on the right shows some of our guys actually using the hoses and going and spraying farther into the ditches over off of Elmwood and Prairieville. 2 spraying units in Gonzales. More cutting and spraying going on in Gonzales area. Bring up a item, I believe it's a item for this afternoon, right? Okay. Highlighting a little bit of the church house, the Church United and Lifehouse. We entered into the contract with them back in July 15th of 2021. The original not to exceed $49,500. Amendment number 1 was passed on the 9th. Not to exceed, the new not to exceed was $34,500. Currently, as of May 31st, we do have $123,000 remaining in that budget. We're currently using 16 laborers in vegetation for hand labor in the trash crews and 4 currently in the boats in the major drainage crews. And one of our items is we're seeking to increase by $350,000 just to maintain our current production rate throughout the end of the year. Also, since the launch of Munis in April 2022, you'll see some more information coming up. That looks like Jade showed earlier. Our Lifehouse crews have been directly responsible for completing 70 work orders so far, and they are averaging about 10 per week. So as fast as they're coming in, they are getting completed, and we are steadily holding a 1-to-1. One comes in, one's completed, so that's pretty good. Pretty good appetite for our vegetation crews. Just to show you, breakdown by tasks, the Lifehouse crews, as you can see, I've been letting y'all know the bread and butter of calls and complaints that are getting directed to the vegetation labor crews is hand cleaning and servitudes where equipment cannot get. We have a little quick breakdown just so you can see these requests are scattered all over the parish. This is just what Lifehouse has done. Department-wide, as far as the entire vegetation, we have currently 193 currently new or in the approved status waiting to be done. As you can see, the highest number trending right now is in off-roads, followed by our parish roads and also vegetation, cleaning, and servitudes. Part of where we're going to be going to help mitigate and offset June's perfect grass growing weather we've been getting lately. We're going to be beginning routine overtime, focusing just on our off-road and our parish road cutting and spraying coming up here the next several weeks. Anybody would have any questions concerning the vegetation department?
Any questions for Mr. Johan? Let's see. Go ahead, Mr. Robert.
When you say routine overtime, how much overtime are we talking?
It's a select crew of about 8 to 10 people. We're going to be starting in the northeastern quadrant of the parish just to help catch up. That's the area of the parish that we have fallen behind on as far as cutting, and so we're hitting our problem areas first.
Assuming that we don't have enough employees that we would have to do, or we don't have enough work for the employees to where we would have to do overtime, have we considered contracting out some labor to where we would pay less than having to pay overtime?
That is an option that we could always consider.
Okay.
We're just trying to stay ahead of the 8 ball
No,
for
absolutely.
right now.
I'm just looking at budget.
Yeah, we're getting the perfect storm for grass growing. It's rain, sunshine, rain, and sunshine.
Yeah.
So we're doing what we can in the short-term gap to get ahead of it and keep up.
Yeah, Mr. President.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to mention that what Johan didn't present, because it's not a major issue, but it is something we need to be aware of. We've had some equipment breakdown, and because of shipment delays and the problems with getting parts, it is requiring some of our fleet to be down. As me and Johan talked this morning, just catching up. It's not at critical levels, but we do need to have to consider that some of our machines are down and some of our big equipment due to the fact we can't get parts. So I just want to make sure we throw that in there and that's rectified. But what Johan has done a good job of is when he's caught up in a quadrant, using that quadrant personnel, shifting them to other quadrants that have a little bit more cutting and done that. So he's done a good job of that. We expect to have our overtime just in this growing season. So it'll be limited overtime, but just on those weekends where we have that good weather, we want to be cutting and keeping up. So they're doing a great job out there cutting and spraying and getting ahead of the game. It's just we're in that June, and we've gotten perfect weather for grass growing, and it's just really...
Because the grass keeps on growing when we're not at work.
Yeah, it's unbelievable the speed at which is growing in certain areas. So I just wanted to mention that about the equipment and the delays in the parts. Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Waggott's back.
Hey, Johan.
Hey, how you doing?
Just bringing something back up. I know it's not important right now because of the grass growing and you guys are catching up. Will we get to a point where we do see, a percent complete for each quadrant, and if we're behind or ahead, and why that is? I know that we approved the GPS. And
it is a little hard because each area is completely different. Like the crews in the Santa Monica area had already done a complete mowing cycle. And so they shifted north into the northeast area, helping out the supervisor in that area. So it's a little hard to have that across the board, but that's definitely something we can look in getting into, and giving you all that metric.
I'm not insinuating you should have it right now. Just, I know in the past, this is something we had approved, the GPS on the tractors, and it was said that we'd be able to track that, and we would use that as a tool for the public to know
Correct.
where we're behind in one quadrant or the other. So
Mhm.
I was just bringing it back up.
Okay.
All right.
Mr. Lawler.
John, thank you. Going to Mr. Robert's question, I happen to have the contract in front of me with the parish president for the drainage thing.
Okay.
And one of the things it says that upon the hiring of the drainage director, we'll get quarterly updates, including number of full-time employees, current payroll, including benefits, overtime costs, and trends. But the overtime costs, I think the reason we're wondering, we just want to kind of keep track of that.
Okay.
And technically, I guess they don't have to provide that information, but we'd still like to get that quarterly. I think the way it was written, we're hoping to, have that done earlier. So
Okay.
if we can make sure we're living by section B13 of this, so full-time equivalent employees, current payroll, including benefits and overtime costs, I think that'll answer Joel's questions. And we're not against overtime, but, sometimes when you see that we're spending so much overtime every year, that means that we don't have enough employees. And,
Yeah,
just
I understand.
trying to figure it out.
But we're definitely putting it where it needs to be.
Oh, I
We're
don't
just
doubt it.
trying to be proactive and get ahead of the game before we are hit with a storm.
Good deal.
Yep.
Just one quick comment, I'll piggyback on that, is just being cautious of hiring extra hands for the spring and summertime, and then come wintertime, we may not have enough work, for them, to justify the extra employees.
It would be a while before we would get to that point, just seeing what is out there that we need to catch up on.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. John.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, moving on to item 7A, approval of Warden Smith change order proposal.
I was going to make a motion that we allow members 7.
So what I'll do,
We go after that.
I can move them up to have to see that way, or employees can go. They should be done after that. Okay. Ms. Cole, we have Ms. Cole here for change order, proposal number 1A to increase master contract by a total of $1,967.25 to accommodate modifications to SCADA panel mounting to the existing Fall Bayou structure, and increase contract time by 60 days for additional time associated with the change order and weather delays as of April 30th.
Motion to approve.
A motion by Mr. Lawler, a second by Mr. Wagasback. Any questions, any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Cole.
You're welcome.
You did great. Item 7B, discussion and approval of assisting residents with permanently repairing the storm drain failure site located at the Greens at Pelican Point. Mr. Joe Robert.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, we've got a unique situation in the Greens at Pelican Point to where the homeowners who are asked to come here tonight, they have a culvert or a drain going through their property that has been compromised. Now, the problem that we are seeing here is this culvert drains an entire street. So it's kind of, I think it would be better if I let Jade come up here and kind of explain what's going on here. I know that currently it is private, and I know how the parish works and how we can do things. So ultimately, what I'm asking here is if we could possibly not do the project for them, but work with them and help them with the project, whether it be with labor or in that direction. If Jay can kind of explain what's going on.
Yeah. So I want to use a email that was sent in by the residents, the bourgeois. It was put together very nicely upon us returning from looking at this, and it gives a really good history of what happened here and the responsibility and where we would fall as a public entity in our responsibility. So they purchased the lot in '02 with the intentions of building a spec house at a later date. Decided to build in '06, but was told that the lot was not large enough to get the house on the lot. Developed, then changed the lot size, widened it to accommodate the house. After the house was built, a big rain washed a large hole in the background. At that time, they discovered a street drain running through the yard, partially under their garage. So remember, this is under their garage. The drain pipe does not show up on the plot. We have pulled the plot. It does not show, we do not have drainage servitude. This is a private part of the community. So the developer had a contractor attach a corrugated pipe extension to the concrete pipe that drains into the lake behind the resident's home. In 09 or 10, the homeowners agreed to bulkhead all that property on the rear of these homes. 2 years later, started seeing a sinkhole developing. It was determined that the bulkhead contractor punctured a hole in the concrete pipe. The contractor fixed the problem by using ready mix. September 21, another sinkhole started, so obviously that failed. They contacted the parish, the HOA, and developer, had numerous discussions. Developer, contractor said they would not have built the house over the drain pipe if they knew the pipe was there. Not making any progress. They hired a contractor to dig into the problem themselves, and this is where we kind of came in and identified the same problem. So what they did is they went from culvert concrete to a corrugated metal through the bulkhead. In that process, they cut bulkhead ties, which gives us probably some possibilities of some future bulkhead failures. The contractor who did this damaged the concrete pipe along with where the metal rotted. Through this investigation, we see where, there's two possibilities of having the lake drawn down, putting concrete existing, reinstalling tiebacks, repairing that wall, but identifying that this is a private matter. This is by plot maps. We discussed it as a drainage team. It wasn't the responsibility of the parish. Joel asked us to bring it and tell the story and see if y'all would consider help with this. There is a second option possibly. It would take some engineering. This is, Joel was correct, this is an outfall to the entire street, unfortunately. So these individuals could not block this or seal it at any point. It would affect the whole neighborhood. So they thought maybe some re-engineering to redirect this pipe, and I would imagine maybe gravity flow and fill this pipe or something like this. But it would require some costly engineering and some redirection. And
Jade, when you're saying that, what you're saying is an open ditch, right, as a second option? Is that what you're talking about?
So I would refer to engineering on that. I would not want to make that decision on my own, but we've gotten some verbal clarification that maybe there would be a donated piece of property at the end of the box where that pipe joins to make that 90-degree turn, that they could possibly join that box, eliminate that, and go straight out into the pond, whether it be open ditch or culverted. That's where I would leave it to possibly some engineering. We definitely saw fall there where it could, possibly could be done, but I would not want to speak on the behalf of the parish as how it would be fixed at this time.
And if I may, that particular method, I think would probably work the best for everybody. You could just abandon the pipe so you don't have to worry about the pipe going under the garage. And the open ditch could be done mainly with labor. Just dig it out, have a little bit of engineering there. So that's kind of what I'm
Well, certainly some engineering, but also from an engineering perspective too, I have to look at the backside of the family's home, the pipe running under it.
You still would have to
What's
mitigate
going
the
through the
existing problem.
bulkhead, you still have those repairs to make to secure all those items. So that's where, like I said, you really need to bring a professional engineer in to tell us what is the best route, what's the most efficient and the most cost effective. So, and at that point, I think where Joel's going is this, if it's something that y'all want to entertain, helping with these residents, and I think from his point of view, it's due to the fact that it affects the community, not just the individual.
And we have the homeowners here also. Did y'all have anything you wanted to add or? Okay. And obviously, for us to even be able to do this, we'd have to adopt a small servitude to be able to do it legally.
Unbeknownst to us at the time, we have a street drain that runs through our property, and it's got a big hole now, a heck of a washout. It's only a few feet from my patio, and we're concerned about that aspect of it. Again, the pipe wasn't on the plat, so the builder didn't know it, we didn't know it. And so we don't feel like we're responsible for draining, the street. At the same time, we don't know exactly which way to turn in terms of removing it and putting it, rerouting it or fixing it. So we're just, we talked to the parish, talked to Joe, and he gladly got us on this menu tonight, so we just looking for some help. Any questions? I'll be glad to try to answer.
I do have a question maybe for either Jay or Ron. So the option, the second option, y'all talking about, re-diverting it. Is there any servitude of right-of-way that exists?
No, sir. So all of this is private. This portion of Pelican Point is private roadway. The only thing you have there is granted rights for services. So I would say water, electric, telephone services, but no drainage, servitude, no right-of-ways.
So the first thing that pops into my mind is that I can ask John Paul, but I mean, it seems to be, it's illegal for us to spend tax dollars on any private property, correct?
Well, we'd have to adopt the drainage servitude.
Yes, it could be classified as a donation. There would have to be some sort of quid pro quo where the parish adopted a drainage servitude and had some interest in the area. But normally, there's a public street that's draining into a pond. In this instance, the street's private, the servitude's private, so I would have to look at that further, but it appears to be a purely private matter at first glance.
Let me see, Mr. Mason,
Yeah, that was
question,
that was
comment?
my concern too. Is can we even legally do this? Because even if we do this, if we somehow find a way, I'm worried about opening up a Pandora's box of all the private subdivisions now saying, "Oh, well, you did it for Pelican Point. Why can't you help us?" And then us being spread even thinner right now than we are. So I would like to see what your legal opinion comes up with, John Paul, and just see what he says and kind of go from there, maybe.
So I'd like to make a motion to let John Paul review legal and bring it back to the next meeting. Is that you have a second on that?
I'll second that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. We have a motion by Mr. Robert for legal. Let's dig into this for us. Let's see what options, if there are any, if we could help this area of Pelican Point, and we'll bring it back on our July meeting, and we'll go from there.
Thank you very much.
All right. I'm sorry, housekeeping. So we have a motion by Mr. Robert, second by Mr. Wagasback. Any objection? Hearing none, that motion passes. All right. Item 7C, approval of amendment number 2 for the Church United to extend contract term 1 year, additional through July 15, 2023, an increased amount by $350,000, and to bring new contract total to not to exceed $690,500 for labor purposes. We have a motion by Mr. Robert, a second by Mr. Mason. Mr. Lawler, question?
Mainly maybe for question for Mr. Waxbeck. Did this go through finance?
I don't believe it did.
I don't think so.
This doesn't, the contracts for East Ascension drainage come directly to you guys.
Go through finance.
No, all
Good
those
point.
come to you.
Good point.
I would like Mr.
Where's the
Johan
money
just
coming
to,
from?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, go ahead. I was just gonna ask Mr. Johan if he could elaborate just a little bit on it for us. We're all familiar with the, with the church services. They've been here a few times and all that stuff, and,
Okay, what was your question?
just elaborate. Is this just, are we adding just another year at the same dollar value? Are we increasing?
Yes, this is, that amount will at least take us to the end of this calendar year.
Okay.
I'm done.
Oh, you know? How about you, Ms. Whitespace? Did you have comment? I turned your mic on for some reason.
Yeah, I had pressed the button. Just to clarify, you said through the end, you mean through July of next year, correct?
With the current rate as we're going with that amount of people, it would probably take us through the end of this year to December.
Okay. All right, so should we anticipate just January 1st will be?
Correct.
Because I did ask a question about the amount, but I didn't realize when I asked it, I wasn't thinking correctly. You were just adding another 350. You
Yes,
weren't doubling the annual, but if we're going to be done, I mean, should we anticipate that we're going to be looking at this
Every year.
every year, well,
Yeah,
January?
we're gonna come to you guys before we would amend anything as the
Right.
program goes, but we'll see what the end of the year brings, guys, but, man, that's where the demand is in this hand labor and these rear servitudes.
Yeah, I mean, we could keep going at our same rate for another year, easy, with the amount of work that's out
Yeah,
there.
it looks like y'all are making good progress. I just see July 15th on here, but we're just
Well, that's
extending term, but
the
we're going
renewal
to
of
probably
the
run out of
contract
money
is gonna
before
happen,
that.
Yeah, anyway, and we
Okay.
went ahead and added funds while we were here. Because we know in 2 months, we'll be coming back to you anyhow, so we figured we'd do the extension of time for next year and add the funds, trying to be proactive through the end of this year. And then the beginning of next year's season will be.
And another question, I see Clint with his hand up. I just got one more question about, so
Sure.
this is all budgeted as far as, that would be my other question. That's all I have.
Yeah, Mr. President?
Thanks, thanks, Chair. Just for discussion purposes, this is like the worst of the worst labor. I mean, this is the back ditches, back subdivisions, just for discussion purposes in the future. This is where the concrete lining would come in. This is where we reduce this labor over the long term. Obviously, the expense of that up front is tremendous, but this is the nuts and bolts of getting behind where we can't get with tractors. Concrete lining that would not only help with less maintenance, but erosion, as well as, keeping debris out of the ditches and things like that, like they do in the city of Gonzales. So just for discussion purposes, if you want to save money over the long term, it is invested in the concrete lining. It's an important component of reducing this type of work. It's a lot out there, and it's hard for us to keep up, and just because it's such a hard manual labor to reduce that vegetation. So that's it, Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Lawler?
Two things. I know we talked about overtime before. Are some of these individuals that we have, are they able to work like seasonal workforce where they could take up some of that overtime so we don't have to spend as much on it?
Are you talking about my normal quadrant mowing and spraying?
Yeah,
that we're getting
I
ready
didn't
to
know
be
what kind of
doing?
equipment some of these people, maybe they're qualified, or we could get them qualified to use some of that equipment just for the high period of time.
We have the personnel to do the work. It's just we're trying to do more work within a given week. So we have more personnel to run the tractors at this point. So that's why we're doing more spraying than we are mowing at this point. So that's just the working Fridays is going to give us a chance just to get caught more, just to have a higher reduction rate.
Okay. And as far as, Mr. President, the concreting goes, I know we went over this before, and if you bring us a plan on that and show us costs, what it's going to cost, and make sure that we're not hurting anybody by doing it, and we're seeing a benefit, I think we'd happily adopt that, but we need something to go on.
And second part of your question, we've already hired 2 out of the Lifehouse program.
Oh, good.
And they currently are operating as tractor drivers and sprayers already.
That's awesome.
So it's a working interview.
Good deal. I like this.
Mr. Wagasback?
Somewhat unrelated to this, but I was thinking back to you saying y'all using drones. Is this an area where once we catch up and we get some of the brush and stuff down, can we look into possibly using drones to spray these areas?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
part of what, because
I'm pointing out the obvious, but I just figured I'd ask.
because there's a lot of areas that besides walking and waders and stuff, that's the only way we would get to it manually.
Okay.
We just received our commercial drone. It had set up for a couple years, so we had to send it off. Matter of fact, we had to end up getting a new one. Well, we just received it, so it's being calibrated right now for ditch spraying so that we can get to these areas. Once they do that, they can then program those routes and all they have to do is pull up to the location, hit the button, and that thing will take off, spray it, come back, sit back in the truck, and take off to the next location. So it is absolutely something we're working on. It's being calibrated as we speak, and we're excited about seeing what kind of production we can get out of that drone spray.
So just to throw this out there too, while we're looking at, those areas look pretty grown up and have some water standing. Can we dual purpose a drone to spray for mosquitoes and weeds at the same time?
I think that would be possible, yes.
Yeah, it's already being used in the abatement program.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Mr. Robert.
The 2 employees that we hired for the Lifehouse that you have training on tractors, did we hire them
Yes.
onto Ascension Parish's payroll? or-
Correct.
Okay. So
They've graduated from the program.
Which is great, but I guess my point, what I'm trying to make here, and that Aaron brought back up, is this overtime. And I know you say you have the personnel to do it, and you have the people to do it. But the whole problem with the overtime is the amount of money that we're paying people. So these 2 Lifehouse people wouldn't really be we'd still have to pay them overtime also. So kind of what Aaron was saying, I believe, and what I'm saying is, during this month, not saying we're behind, but whenever we do want to pay overtime or we do want to work extra, could we get the Lifehouse people, contracted Lifehouse people, not someone hired onto Ascension Parish, but contract them to come be that extra labor, and that way we're not paying time and a half to do something that we could do for less money.
That would have to be a whole complete separate workforce because these guys are already working 40-hour weeks with the rest of the parish crews. And
Well,
then,
what do you mean another workforce? Because if they work 40 hours a week, then they're done, so you'd have the new people come in and use the tractors on the weekend or whenever it is.
that may not be such of a viable option due to most of them that come in with the Lifehouse program. Most of them don't even have a valid driver's license.
I guess to me, it's not a very viable option to know you're
Correct.
going to pay overtime and plan to pay overtime. So I would really like to look at fixing that.
Okay.
Chair,
Yep, go ahead, Mr. President.
if I may. So our growing season of when we have the most growth is really 3 months. June, July, August, and maybe the beginning of September, depending upon spraying. Overtime's been utilized for decades because that is the peak growing season. So this is when we really do it. And if it's predicted rain on the weekends, we don't work overtime because we're just not going to have our tractors out there. So it just provides us the flexibility within this 3-month growing period, because once winter happens, we're looking for things for our grass cutters to do because they've already cut everything, sprayed everything, and then we have them idly. We'll adjust them to different cleaning up projects and things of that nature, especially around the holidays, but we don't. Well, this is the tool that has been constantly used for decades, is the overtime, just in this 3 months. So we just don't hesitate of hiring a bunch of people or contractors. The flexibility of using our crews with the overtime is just something that is really beneficial. And it provides our crews to earn a little extra money, which is important, and not cutting them out of that, especially when they're working so hard in the heat. So the overtime works, and we could look at other options, contract, but we do a lot of contract, labor with Lifehouse. We spend a lot of money there. So we just need to weigh those options when overtime has been utilized for decades. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Savoy.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to the comment on the president. In the contract, you can't get Lifehouse employees that work 40 hours in a week and work overtime and not pay them overtime either. There's overtime rates in the contract that you'd pay overtime rates anyhow to the employees with Lifehouse. In addition to that, we're kind of eyeing those employees with Lifehouse. Remember, they're doing hand labor work. When you put them on a boom mower, one of these heavy equipment operations that we have, it's $200,000 machines. You need to know what you're doing, and it's not everyone can really run those things. So while we're grooming the crews and looking for potential candidates, I would say that we would really need to pay close attention to that before we would go that route.
Mr. Robert.
With all that said, I mean, there's a lot of things that are done, and they've been done in the past, but if there's a new way, then we should look at it. I'm just asking y'all to look, whether it's Lifehouse or another contractor, or even hiring a seasonal employee. And like I asked before, and y'all couldn't really give me the answer, how much overtime are we talking about? I mean, are we talking about $100,000 a year of overtime? Are we talking about 50,000? Are we talking about 1,000 hours? I mean, we got to see what we're talking about. Because planned overtime, it doesn't make sense.
We have your pretty much report this year
On current operations from month to month, so we're about to do that for June and July and have that reported back on
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
overtime we're spending. It's easily done.
All right, Mr. Lawler?
Yeah, I'm just going to echo what Joel said. I think it's an opportunity, though, to look at seasonal employees. We've got a lot of people in the parish that work on this kind of equipment on a daily basis. In fact, we've got a lot of people that are employed right now that probably know how to work this equipment that we could hire for 3 months out of the year, save us. I mean, our job is to save money and to look at the budget, not to make sure people get overtime. If y'all want to make sure people get overtime, that's on y'all. Our job is to try and conserve money so we can spread it a little further. If we can reduce paying time and a half by hiring some seasonal employees, that could really benefit us and allow us maybe to do more with the dollars. And I think we've got a lot of people in this parish that know how to use that equipment, that may have another job working 40 hours a week and be willing to work for us 2 days on the weekend and pay them at a regular cost. And we'd save a ton of money doing that, and we'd get the job done. And we wouldn't have to pay them benefits and all that. They'd just be a seasonal employee.
Let's see. All right, my memory's kind of slipping me. I know I had a motion and a second before discussion. I had a motion from Mr. Robert and a second by Mr. Mason. Is there any objection? Hearing none? Hearing none, that motion passes. I would like to make one little agenda change real quick, if it's okay with the rest of the commissioners. The last item, item 7I, discussion of Bayou Manchak cleanup. Would anyone be opposed to me moving that to right in front of D? We can make that 7C1, and that way the citizens, they don't have to stay for the rest of the agenda items, which may become kind of lengthy. No? All right. All right, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and move to previously 7I, and we're going to make that 7C1, and that we will address that right now. That's discussion of Bayou Manchak cleanup, and I do have one public speaker, Mr. Jim Shreve. Yes. Yeah, please come to the podium, Mr. Jim. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. I was gracious enough that the parish president had allowed some of us citizens to talk about this Bayou Manchak issue, which affects all of us. I live on Santa Maria on Bayou Manchak, and in 2016, I had the opportunity to see an 8-foot wall of water come at my house. And it was interesting to observe how it happened, okay? And of course, when something like that happens, you kind of go into kind of a study mode and say, well, okay, I thought it was supposed to go the other way, okay? Well, I had to correct the news media on what direction the water was flowing. I said, I hate to break it to you, but it's headed to the Mississippi River, okay? Of which was coming through your parish, okay? And so I began to look at it, and I found some data, which I think I was told I could put on here somehow.
Yeah, there should be a button right there, sir, that you can turn the camera on. There you go.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, great. It's kind of interesting that the Corps of Engineers, many years ago, looked at this whole system from the top of Baton Rouge all the way to the Mississippi River and realized that the Bayou Manchak wants to go to the Mississippi River, okay? So the solution that they created was weir systems, floodgates, and collection ponds. And the point at which it wanted to go to the Mississippi River, it couldn't because now we have a levee there. And so the idea was simply pump it over the levee. And so assuming that works, and I'm not the expert in the room, but assuming that the Corps of Engineers is right, and there are pump systems that can do that, then we would have taken an entire area of Livingston Parish, north of Baton Rouge, all the way to the river down through the parishes, and we would have solved the catastrophic rain issues for the entire system, okay? And so it's interesting that this solution was put in place prior to 2016 and nobody did anything, okay? We now have funds that I understand has come available. As I hear all of your experts here, which is fascinating to hear them speak, I got to say, okay? I mean, the diligence of these people is incredible to me. But the point is that there is a larger picture that has to be satisfied. The larger picture for all of the residents, that's probably in excess of 1 million people, who live in Louisiana, and we wake up every time we hear of a rain system coming through, we're all wondering at our homes, everybody, am I going to get flooded this time? And living right next to you in East Baton Rouge Parish, and having worked at BASF Corporation for many years, I know your parish quite well. I have a lot of friends here. All your names sound familiar. I would just say that we have an opportunity to solve this problem. And all we have to do is give it to the Corps of Engineers and their expertise. And as I listen to your experts here, this system, if it's put in, it's my notion that it will bring your cost down of handling the tributaries within your parish, number one. Number two, from my view, this is an opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Jim. That's your 3 minutes, sir.
Do we have any other speakers?
Mr. Rosso, I believe, is speaking for a group.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. I've been waiting for an opportunity to speak to the committee here. Let me begin. This is the first time that I've addressed the committee. So I'd like to first of all say my name is John Rosso. I'm a resident here. I have been representing property owners and bringing people together to try to address the situation of flood mitigation along Bayou Manchak. We represent the organizations you see here. Some of the people here represent over 1,000 families. So we didn't bring individual residents. We committed not to do that. We speak on behalf of them to try to keep the numbers of people down in the whole situation. But you're speaking to people who represent 1,000 plus families right now. Since early 2021, we began formation and discussion. In October of 2021, we had a meeting with the parish presidents, and that's 3 parish presidents that were there, East Baton Rouge Parish, Ascension Parish, and Iberville. And we had people from drainage management from all of these parishes, along with Congressman Graves, representatives from ARBC, representatives of both the House and the Senate. And so we had approximately 25 people that came to that first meeting and have come since then to update meetings. Subsequent to that meeting, President Quintmont asked that we get our update information from the Drainage Committee. For that purpose, I am here. We want to acknowledge one thing, and that is that the intentional scope of our efforts has been on Bayou Manchak. And we recognize that the solutions to mitigating flooding in the surrounding areas cannot be fully planned for and achieved without consideration for conditions outside the boundaries of Bayou Manchak, involving many parishes, state and federal organizations. And we won't go into the details, but I think you guys all know that, and I know Mr. Savoy does. But we also believe that the proposed mitigation tactics identified and agreed to in our previous discussions for Bayou Manchak will in fact significantly help with the normal and somewhat unusual rain and runoff. We have already seen the benefit of work of the first phase of this. Now, subsequent to our meeting in 2021 and those which followed, it was agreed by those in attendance that there would be a multi-phase approach to mitigation. One of the objectives I have right now is to make that as part of the record because it doesn't exist anywhere in any one spot right now. So I'd like to say that there's 4 phases that are either under consideration or will be done. And that is the desnagging of the bayou, number 1. Number 2, the review of data already collected and removed, and the removed subsurface restrictions. That also includes debris, sedimentation, and other things. The development of an ongoing maintenance program to not let the conditions in Bayou Manchak continue, And then the fourth one is the consideration of benefits of pumping at various venues. That last item was actually an item that you and Mr. Shreve spoke a little bit. It's really referencing some of that. Okay. At the request of President Quitman, I'm here to find out where we are with the program. Our primary questions have been submitted. I provided those to Chairman Melanson to make sure that we didn't come up here and ask questions and not give you a chance to be able to prepare for them. So we're going to do that, and we're going to address them in those 4 phases. So if I can begin, for the record, we submit and ask your acknowledgement of the 3 phases agreed to in the one for consideration for debottlenecking Bayou Manchak. Is there anyone here have any objections to those phases being the general plan of action along Bayou Manchak?
I have a bunch of questions.
Go ahead. Shoot.
I'm very confused as to what's going on. I'm sorry. Maybe I didn't get the email or something. Maybe I didn't read something properly. If I did, I apologize.
Ask me a question.
What are the 3 phases? What are the 3 phases? What is the 4th phase we're proposing? I'm very confused.
Hang tight real quick.
Okay.
I kind of fill you in. So last May 6th, I received the email from Mr. Rosso. Earlier this year, Mr. Rosso and a bunch of family members in the Manchak Basin, they met with Congressman Graves, parish president, and whatnot. And then so at Mr. Lawler and Mr. Ogeron's request, they asked me to put them on the agenda tonight to where they could ask questions about the I'm sorry, I'm having a brain about Bayou Manchak, where we are with the Ida cleanup, potential for channelization, dredging, and all that stuff. And for the record, so I told Mr. Rosso in May, and again, I think last week whenever we emailed, that this project is being done by McKinnon Creed at the guidance of PLD, who they're contracted through. So at this time, this is not an East Ascension Drainage Commission project that has been contracted, for these studies. It is PLD. PLD is not ready to share those results of the study with us yet, because not all members of PLD and its executive board have been shown, potential plans and options. But Mr. Rosso and Mr. Ogeron were very insistent, so I invited Mr. Rosso and get his questions on the record. We can talk about the Ida cleanup, which is done. We went through there and we've cleaned all of that up. But I will tell you, most of the questions on here, I can't answer because no one up here knows.
Okay, may I address the council? Mm-hmm. Okay, let me first address Mr. Mason. Mr. Mason, this coalition of people that we put together here are all families along this bayou. We are a huge stakeholder in the decisions that are being made, okay? So this coalition is here because we have stood by and watched the lack of activity occur. Once this coalition got together, whether or not it was a driver or not does not really matter. I'll share with you the same thing I said at the beginning of our first meetings with the congressmen and the state people, and that is we have one objective. That objective is to get results. So when we identified these phases, and it was brought to me, these are none that we identified. These were brought out by the individuals in the individual parishes, because this is a parish issue initially. It exists in the parish of East Ascension and East Baton Rouge Parish. We are also working with East Baton Rouge Parish doing the same things because there is coordination. Our issue is we want information as what's going to be done and when. So my first question to you right now is to ask you to acknowledge that the general plan for the cleanup of Bayou Manchak includes number 1, desnagging, number 2, subsurface restriction removal, number 3, the development of an ongoing maintenance program to not let it continue to get to where it has gotten this far. And the 4th one is going to be one that's addressed by PLD, not the first 3. And our understanding is that the desnagging has been completed. Is that correct?
Yeah, from the hurricane Ida cleanup, yes, sir.
Well, it's both. It's pre-Ida. I learned a lot. In the last 2 years, I've learned a whole lot. One of those is that we remove trees pre-Ida and we remove trees post-Ida because of economic considerations. But my understanding, that is complete. Mm-hmm. And that being complete, it had a huge impact on the residential population around in 2 ways. One, it quickly gave us evidence that there was some improvement in the actual water flow from surface restrictions. The second thing it said the parish actually wanted to do something, and instead of just talking about it, actually did it. So we're very excited about the first phase being done. The second phase is going to be as important, but I want to go back and remind everybody that we do understand that this work within Bayou Manchak and the confines from Iberville down to the Amite is a very small portion of the real overall flood mitigation efforts. That's why we have people from ARBC. There's a gentleman here from there that's been working with us. We've been working with the state legislature and to get some stuff that's passed that's going to help on these multiple or multi-parish issues that have got to be worked out. So we're trying to learn, but we are here specifically for Ascension Parish right now, to ask Ascension Parish, in terms of the subsurface restriction removal, that was supposed to come from recommendations from McKim Creed. McKim Creed was supposed to have that by summer. That it is now summer. Monica Gorman of PLD has not returned my call.
Right,
okay?
I mean, the end of summer is, I mean,
not the end of summer, by summer. And I consider summer May, June. So what we're saying is if it is going to be by the end of some time, we want to know when. And certainly because it resides within Ascension Parish should have the same questions. When are we going to get the report? If you don't have it.
By the end of summer.
By the end, you know that?
No, that's what we were told. We were told.
And when is the end of the summer?
August. That's the expectation that McKim Creed would be ready to share their findings.
I can.
It's just a question. Okay.
Yeah, sure do. Live right there in Belgrove off of Perkins Road.
Where?
On Perkins Road. Right on Bayou Manchak.
Okay.
Okay. It is my information that McKim...
One second, Mr. Rosso, the parish president.
Yes, sir.
Would like to.
Mr. President.
From what I understood, time-wise, so when I want August 1st to get here and have some kind of misunderstanding, the end of August, first 2 weeks of September, that's what I would consider in the summer.
I'm okay with that.
That's what I understood. That's why I want to make sure that you understand what I understood.
That's okay,
yeah,
Mr. Quintmont. We're okay with that.
Okay.
We just want to know a number that we can
Sure.
say we can bet on. So we're okay with that. But when I was told by summer, to me that's June, and we're looking for it. So, but if it's August, we're okay with that. And we will be back to ask questions about that report. Phase 2. Let me ask you this. First of all, before we leave that, is there a group that's been established to review this report from McKim Creed on Ascension Parish, between Ascension Parish and East Baton Rouge Parish?
Our program manager would do that. That would be our ADAPT program who spoke earlier.
Yeah.
They would review that to make sure it fits and coincides and there's no overlapping projects.
Okay.
Yes.
And may I address
Chair,
President Quintmont?
Can I interject something right quick, Chase, for clarity here?
Yeah.
I want to be sure that, for the public record, that we don't get things confused. So on Bayou Manchak, and what we did in the drainage field was pre-Hurricane Ida, we got hit in May. And there were some trees in Manchak. We got a Corps of Engineer permit. We had Chem Spray on point to go out and respond to that. Those trees were identified by ELOS Environmental. So we had clear records of what was in a Manchak before Ida hit, okay? And then Ida comes along and hits. We were able to fly the drones again, and we had clear documentation between what was pre-Ida and post-Ida debris. And the reason I'm clarifying this is FEMA has regulations on how we document and what we submit. I just want to be, for the record, clear that everything we did with DRC was related to Ida debris and threat removal and mitigation.
Yeah, to where we get our money
The
back.
Chem Spray stuff was done in the first phase of it, and that's not being submitted for reimbursement. So I just want to clarify that, and All South is also our consultant that managed that throughout the process, and it is complete. So just wanted to clarify that for the record.
Yeah. Very successful first phase, too, by the way. My question back to you is there a team now, or is that this, I have to apologize because I don't understand who all exists within the parish, but there needs to be somebody that's going to coordinate with East Baton Rouge Parish as well, because there's this, you know, there has to be some collaboration. So is that the person that would collaborate with East Baton Rouge Parish? Or would
At
you
the beginning of the meeting, sir, Mr. Monzon sitting behind you, he gave the presentation on the DAP program.
Correct.
And he was talking about managing all of our capital projects. So HNTB is going to be our program manager for all capital projects. So HNTB would be the parish's, you know, single point of contact who would manage projects like that for us.
I certainly don't want to tie your time up in getting into too much detail, but I need to understand a little better about what that is so that we, as constituents, can get a sense that the activities is being worked on and how they're worked on and the timing of them. So we know that the report's coming out, it's going to have to be evaluated, and it's going to have to also be evaluated, we believe, you know, with consideration of East Baton Rouge Parish as well. And like I said, we're having these same conversations with East Baton Rouge Parish people, okay? So we'll look for August to come, and when August comes, we'll have a better idea. And I assume, and if I assume correct, you can tell me or tell me I'm wrong, but I assume that the recommendation that comes from McKim and Creed will be their general overall recommendation, and then the parish will make a decision from that what the actual parish's recommendation is going to be for that subsurface restriction removal. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you like me to answer that, Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Once they do their proposal, then they will issue that, and we will meet, each parish will meet with McKim and Creed to go over those specifics. That will be looked at and agreed to, and then it's time to go get funding, because these things are not automatic funding. And so that is the next step to that, is how we're going to pay for it. And so that would then be the next step after we review the plans and what the conceptuals are, right? Because it's not full design.
Correct.
But it's conceptual design, BCAs, overall what they're going to do, what they're proposed to do, and now it's time to go get the money.
Right.
And that would be the following step.
My understanding as well is that, and this is from a direct conversation between me and Monica Gorman, the head of Pontchartrain Levee District, they do not want to and do not intend to be managing this. They're managing the engineering stuff on behalf of Congressman Graves only. And I mention that because they're not going to be a real big part of this. They're really not. The big part of it's going to be among the parishes, and that's going to be quite a task to get it done. But on a smaller way, it was certainly doable for the desnagging, and I'm real hopeful, like the rest of us are, that it can be done also with the subsequent projects. Okay. The funding, Mr. Pat Forbes, I've had a number of conversations with him. I guess you're familiar with him. He's head of Office of Community Development for the governor. The money of the Louisiana Water Initiative is sitting and resides in there. It's approximately $800 million left out of $1.2 billion that's out there to be gathered. I heard someone speak earlier, and I really had wanted to question it because, again, I'm a student. I'm learning about this. But Mr. Forbes called me and wanted me to participate and send one of his people here from a region. And what they've done, and he told me, is that money that resides in the Louisiana Watershed Initiative, that pot, is going to be spread among all the regions in Louisiana. And before the next distribution is made, that all regions are going to have to come in and submit their requirements. So my thought was, man, South Louisiana's got the biggest hit. We're going to get the biggest piece out of the pie. That's not guaranteed. We have to submit it in regions. And he told me that there's not going to be a distribution for a little bit. It's probably going to coincide with maybe the timing of getting a conclusion of what you want to do in the parish.
So you need to get that document. You need to get a hold to it, okay? Because it says in there from with the money that was given that a certain percentage has to go to the, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be, I'm going by memory, the top 10 impacted parishes. And of course, Baton Rouge, Livingston, and Ascension were probably the top 3. So in that language is guaranteed that that money goes to those impacted areas. And so I would suggest you get that language of how that money came down to the state, because it'll have in the requirements of how it's spent.
Yeah. And like I said, I haven't read that. I don't have any reason to believe that it's not going to be distributed this way. It's just that Mr. Forbes informed me of how the process was going to be, not what percentages would go where.
It's very important, though.
Huh?
Very important, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
like, I believe we're region 6?
And
Yes.
7.
6 and 7?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, good. Then appreciate that. Let me see. Some of this I'll postpone until after we get the report. We'll get some answers for you. The next question I have is there a plan right now and who or a team set up to work on the maintenance, the ongoing maintenance? And more specifically, I will say that the parish has been very cooperative with us in the areas that I've worked in helping us, overcome some of our obstacles in drainage. Minor things that I'm now realizing are minor or outfall work and stuff within our individual subdivisions. But we've had that works, so we know how to process. When we have a problem, our homeowners presidents will contact the appropriate people in the drainage department, and we get responses. What I want to know is, what do we do, and is the funding there for us to go and continue to maintain the surface restriction removal as it occurs? Another tree falls. Who do we do? Who do we call? And are we committed to keeping the bayou up to keep it as good a condition as it is right now?
Yeah, so recently, we've had the historical protection of Manchak, lifted out, I want to say for a 5-year period? Or,
Yeah, I'd be happy to elaborate fully.
Go ahead.
So until Ida's cleaned up, as stated in the earlier report from the Drainage Department, that is getting us back to zero. Before Ida, we have our boat crews that go and extensively travel each channel to ensure that they can get trees that fallen down and things like that. Due to the delineation on Manchak, restricted us from doing a lot of that work, and as soon as that was lifted, it was why Kim Spray went in immediately to do that. But yes, they will be put on the regular boat crew. Now, we will work Ascension side only now, because that's where our taxpayers come from. But East Baton Rouge will have to do their side as well as Iberville. If we fall behind on something like that, we would then go to NRCS, and we look for a 25-75 match to do cleanups of that type if it becomes too onerous. Conway is a perfect example of where we've contracted with Kim Spray to come in and add to what our boat crews do, and they'll get 75 to 100 trees at a pop sometimes. So just like we did in Manchak. So hopefully once the channelization cleaning and we get back to what we consider zero, anything that falls, our boat crews would then go and get. And hopefully that delineation will never come back to prohibit us to do that. And then we'll constantly do our maintenance along our channels like we do every other channel, and it's work from south to north, north to south.
Who do we contact?
You put in a work order. You put 450-1200. We also have an app that you can download, and you can take a picture. It can give you longitude and latitude, and you can put that work order in your app, track that work order, and it will show you the status of that work order, and then it will tell you when it's complete.
Can I ask possibly that someone spend a minute with me and show me how to do that so that I can convey that to all the people?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you go to the parish website, ascensionparish.net, and if you scroll down all the way to the bottom of the homepage, you'll see a little circle that says Ascension Citizens Work Center. I forget the exact, but call center or whatever.
I'll try. I'll tell you this.
But you would put in a work order just as if if the ditch in front of your house needs to be cut and cleaned. It'd be the same process.
We don't do that. We make a phone call right now. And if we start and we pack, because one of the things that we're doing as a coalition is we're communicating to all of these families of what to do. And I don't think that you're going to want that many families making phone calls, because that's what we do right now. So my question is that if there is a website or a way to do that online, somebody just simply needs to show me how to do it, and I'll convey it to the rest of the people. And we'll try to keep that out. So if you will do that, have somebody contact me and just walk me through it.
Okay.
Fair enough? Thank you. Okay. All right. I got somebody already. All right. Sometimes you just ask, you find out stuff. Okay. On the maintenance program, just to confirm, And it's not our place to try to track down or ask you whether you got the money or not to do. We just want to get the results. But it's nice to hear that that's not going to be a problem, that you got some means, a way to handle it right now. So that's positive and that's constructive. The last question that I have is one that I had really, you led it to Mr. Shreves. He jumped ahead of me a little bit on that, but he's part of our coalition, so that's okay. He's bringing the same thing. The question is that in the McKim-Creed report, did they in fact consider the recommendations of the Corps of Engineers? And before you attempt to answer that or even give me a short answer, it goes to this picture. We think that Bayou Manchak, we're looking at this, and it's something that we can bite off, and we want to fix that. But we know that, my home got 11 inches of water in it, and I was 2 feet above the flood zone, all right? We had people couldn't, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, we had found, especially elders, people that had been in there for years that couldn't take it. And it's something that we just can't give up on. But fixing Bayou Manchak alone is not going to fix the problem. But it is something that we can bite off and we can make happen, and it does have some effects on us. The bigger picture is, what are you going to do in South Louisiana? And this is where the Corps of Engineers comes in. The recommendation, this first report that we have, and I don't even know if it's the first one, of their proposed solutions is 1995. It's been issued in the Advocate a number of times, but it just lies there. So my questions to you from Ascension Parish, from a parish perspective, because this is much bigger than just the parish, my question is, does the parish have a team that's going to work with the Corps of Engineers on the bigger picture? Because the parish is just one piece of that big old pie. Are we down that road yet? Have we started to work with the Corps of Engineers on really the core solution to the flooding of our homes?
Yeah. So to my knowledge, the Corps does not make suggestions on us drainage improvements. We go through them for, our permitting and any possible mitigation, but I've never known the Corps to come to us and say, do this project. And
let me submit this for the record.
Okay.
Can I give it to her? She said she would make a copy.
Yeah, Ms. Daigle right here.
Yeah. Huh?
Yes, Ms. Daigle.
Yeah, I told her I would do that.
Okay.
If it was okay. What I have right here is the same thing that you saw with Mr. Shreve, and I'm going to give her a copy of my talking points just in case somebody might refer back to it. But that is, the Corps of Engineers does say that to help reduce the flooding, they had a proposal that exists right there. So they do have a solution. I think I'm right, and if I may be wrong, it's just it's a recommendation from them. You might know more than I know.
If I can, Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
So the Corps did do a study about pumping into the Mississippi River some time back. The BCA did not come back because it was, if I had to throw a number out, I think it was $1 billion. So the BCA did not come back. So yes, it was evaluated in this, and McKim-Creed are looking at that. Also, the Shaw study that was done some years ago that was $10 million or something like that, something around that number. It may not be 10 million. It was an expensive study, let me say. And so they have all that information, and they're going over all that to provide regional solutions, because it's not just parish, it's regional solutions to Manchak that involve all 3 parishes, really all 5, to be honest. That would be Iberville, Ascension, EBR, Livingston, and St. James.
Right.
They are looking at regional solutions, and that was the push for the Watershed Initiative regions, was to handle these, and these projects needed to be funded. They had to have a regional aspect to them. And so when McKim-Creed finishes their study, each of those will have a regional aspect, because that's what qualifies for the Louisiana Watershed Initiative funding. And so these are regional projects, whereas the parish here in Drainage Board and Administration, we're going to look for in-parish projects that really benefit a small localized area or a basin, Conway Basin, Maurepas, Henderson, Manchak, whatever that may be, especially with our floodplain management that HNTB is doing for us right now with the modeling. What you saw earlier was that modeling that's going to identify areas that we need to concentrate on inter-parish. But LWI is regional projects, and each project that will be submitted at the end of this study will have a regional aspect to it to help flooding in multiple parishes, not just a single parish.
And that is what we understand. And that's why I said there was 3 phases that were within the parish confines, and then there's this 4th one that's going to take a lot more effort. But we wanted to identify that, in fact, the questions we get asked, well, what about the Corps? What is the Corps saying? What about this aspect of it? And it is probably the most macro view of what needs to be done to help mitigate flooding. But my hope is, and our hope is, that the parish recognizes that while it is a regional thing, that somebody take the ball, don't let it sit there, and go try to gather up and start talking with them about what are we going to do on this macro level. That's, my grandkids might ever get to see that ever happen. But this other stuff can happen today, like it's been happening right now, and we want to make sure that that does occur. So I guess we're going to look and see, and I do have some information, and I hesitate to say this, but I do have a belief. Let me say that because it is not confirmed or verified. I do have a belief that the actual detailed study by McKim and Creed is complete, that in fact their work is done. They haven't presented anything yet. And that's okay too. They may need time to review it and they want to, let the seeds germinate and stuff like that. That's okay. I don't have information on the details of it, but what we are asking for is that we as constituents get told what's going to be done to help mitigate this flooding in a specific way, in a means of some items that are tactical items that we can hold people accountable for and say, let's do them. And we recognize the broader picture. So with that, I think that's the conclusion of here. And I will plan to be back here in August, and if not another venue. If you guys, I really wondered whether or not this is the right venue, but I'm going to concede to the request that I've been given, because we don't want to tie your meeting up in discussion. It's really for reporting and stuff, I think. But yet we still have a lot of questions and we don't have them answered, and we're going to be looking for places to go get them answered. And the biggest thing is this: I'd leave you with, for the record, for 2 things we'd ask. As soon as the McKim and Creed report comes out, we'd like to be notified and a copy be given to us. And the second thing is, as soon as Ascension Parish looks at it and says, hey, this is what we want to do, we'd like to know what that is and do that for us. And then we can go from there. But thank you very much. Any other questions? I'd be glad to answer.
No, I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Rosso. Or, I'm sorry, Mr. Robert, you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, President, but the CBA that he was talking about is a cost-benefit analysis. So as Ascension Parish, we've done our due diligence in that, and as the parish itself, we will never be able to do that project because I'm just telling you how it works. The cost-benefit analysis isn't there. Now, the only way this project could work is if it was regional. So that report coming from McKim and Creed, the results from that aren't going to make the parish make Bayou Manchak go to the Mississippi River, because it's the $1 billion price tag that stops that from happening.
We don't expect that the parish take that on. We recognize that that's more at a federal level.
So that's not true.
State level.
Let me, you asked me to connect.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there is a part of this proposal that does pump water into the Mississippi River. That project happens to be in Ascension. McKim and Creed is not finished with their report. I know that because I talked to them today. Okay. And so we're all working together to ensure that they can meet that deadline. But they are working with each and every parish, and so they're, getting pulled in a lot of different directions and a lot of stuff. So the core proposal, BCA, did not come back. That does not mean that the proposed project for Ascension will not meet the BCA. So that's part of that work, and we're eagerly waiting. I can assure you there's not a board member up here that doesn't want movement on Manchak, because it has been a topic for us since the May flood and since 2016. I can promise you that, because that is the truth. And if board member Casso was here, she would reiterate that. She has been a driving force wanting to see these projects completed, and that fish Bayou locks is a $2.5 million project that we should see come to conclusion in August, which should benefit our parish greatly in reducing those levels, as the work in Manchak already will help reduce those levels and keep that reservoir in the Spanish Lake at levels that we can take in more water in case we get 11-inch rain, or what happened just a couple weeks ago or even a week ago in New Orleans when they got 5 inches of rain in an hour and flooded the streets because the pumps couldn't keep up. So we're aggressively seeking solutions to those problems. But as much as the billions upon billions of dollars that has been spent in New Orleans, you can still see that the challenges still exist within their drainage system of the largest pumps in the world and in the world, and all their navigation channels that are engineered to the nth degree. They still have the challenges that exist from rain coming too fast, too quickly, and those challenges. So I can assure you there's nobody on this board that doesn't want to see action taken and or full support of that.
Well, we appreciate that, and we recognize, in fact, that those conditions exist. But one thing is just it's just my nature to say something, Mr. Robert, is that I never say that there's no way. There's always options. Now, the question is that it may not be cost beneficial, but maybe we don't know all the options. Maybe there's some smart people out there that offer some.
Well, we're looking at several different options to pump it.
Yes.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. Should be a little further out.
Yeah, that's fine. I have a personal opinion too. I want the last point that I wanted to make was something
Mr.
that
Russell,
came from our. I'd like to make
you got one more?
Yes.
All right. We still have 6 more agenda items left.
I understand. I
All right.
appreciate it, and these people have been waiting a long time too. But my last point was this, just that a resident asked me to bring up to you, and that is that the cleanup thus far on Bayou Manchak has aesthetically made it so nice. It's a really, the tourism, the recreational values and stuff of it, while it may not need to be considered, that's a huge, I think they write about that. And we had some people that took a Lafitte skiff down the bayou, ran aground. Okay, so we know there's sediment, right? It doesn't take a Philadelphia lawyer or a nuclear scientist to figure it out. So we are really anxious looking for the second phase, which is important to us, and we'll take care of that in August. Thank you very much.
All right. Have a good one.
All right,
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Ms. Lawler, you.
I was just going to say real quick that been trying to get a kayak or canoe launch on Bayou Manchak, and now that it's getting clean, maybe we'll get that done, because it could connect all the blue waterways all through East Baton Rouge Parish. It could all connect. We've got property on Camp Drive that we could use, so hopefully we get that done. Let's talk to Recreation. I've been trying for that for 6-7 years now. We'll see.
All right, moving on to item 7D. This is discussion of bulkheads concerns at Holy Rosary Church. So this is something that I put on the agenda. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. So at Holy Rosary Church, whoever's not familiar, Holy Rosary Church is on the corner of New River Canal and Duck Roost Canal, and there's I'm assuming I guess maybe about 1,000 feet of bulkhead, around the front and side of the church. This bulkhead was put in the late 90s with right?
There was a cooperative endeavor chair in, I think, 2011 for a section of it.
Oh,
the front part along Weber City is older, as you're saying, but there was an installation in 11 of a section of it.
Right. And so the issues we have, I've been contacted several times, and so is Mr. Savoy. The bulkhead in the front of the church and on the side of the graveyard is terribly caving in. It's I know bulkheads are a touchy subject on for the personal homeowner property, but this is kind of a safety issue right here, as where the bulkhead is falling in is roughly 40-50 feet from hundreds of graves. And can
Safety.
Hmm?
Safety.
Oh, yeah.
Wait.
Yeah, and so if it was to continue to cave in, we could lose graves into New River, and we would completely plug up Duck Roost Canal which is a connector between New River and Black Bayou. So I wanted to bring this up. My initial idea was to ask administration if we could go out and do two things. One, see how much it would cost to replace the bulkhead, and number two, see how much it would cost to, if it's possible, to shore up where it's caving in. There's really three spots that are the absolute worst, and if it was possible that we could, drive new pollens and backfill.
We had Lamandola Construction go out, Chase, and look at this.
Okay.
And his recommendation was the part along Weber City pretty much needs to be replaced. And then there were some sections of the existing one in 2011 that's still stable that you can reutilize, but there are some failure points in it as well. So his initial assessment was 100,000 or so. Now that's him going out and doing it based off of what he does. That's no engineering or nothing like this. This is just a construction company that specializes in bulkheads, and he would recommend that he could make the repair for that amount of funds. I can go back to him and try to get a little bit more detailed, synopsis of what he's proposing. Maybe come back to the board and maybe see if he can come in and talk on it.
Okay.
And go from there.
All right. I like that. Mr. Lawler.
Who owns the graveyard, do we know?
Oh, the church.
The church does?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the prettiest church in all of Ascension, and some people probably get mad, but it really is. My only concern, we may have to talk to our attorney about it, is there's always putting money into a church. Could even, come up some issues there, legal issues that we have to make sure that we can do. I mean, I think we should talk to them and talk to the archdiocese to see how they could help also. But we definitely have to do something. We can't have these graves falling in, and I'll try and do everything we can. But let's get an opinion on from legal to see. I mean, the obvious pitfalls there. There's some certain.
I can talk to the bishop about saving your soul.
Yes,
I can do that.
Shot, I'm telling you right now.
No, this is a public drainage way that goes through. And so this is a little different than the one we were talking about before, where we do have an obligation. Now, what the obligations are on maintaining bulkheads as opposed to erosion, and that's almost an engineering analysis. If there wasn't a bulkhead, is it going to impede drainage? Then that would be something that we need to, that we would be okay in remedying. But there was a previous cooperative endeavor agreement is what I'm hearing, so I would like to look at that first, start from there.
Yeah, let's do that.
Mr. Wagasback.
Yeah, so this is, I guess, somewhat related, and you don't have to answer me tonight, Ron, but Chase and I were talking about this one in particular. I got a phone call from a resident with some erosion happening due to the lower levels that we're holding, which I know why we're holding them, but and I've heard from another resident, they've seen other areas where they're having big pieces of property come off into it's maybe Black Bayou, Bayou Northeast, but are we seeing that, and is that something we want to, that we need to be, I know it's not with this item, it's just on my mind, so I just want to see if we're hearing those things or seeing those things.
Yeah, so we want to note that we're pulled down to levels no lower than nature pulls it down. Matter of fact, nature has pulled it down way lower than it is today. And so we just want to make that point. There's I guess, always been erosion issues, just depending. Sometimes it has to do with spraying, killing vegetation, which creates erosion. So we just try to handle that on a case-by-case basis. But we do a lot of riprap. This is where you can clearly see a big project that was done right on 73 in that corridor along that ditch, a whole bunch of riprap. So we just handle a lot of case-by-case basis. But we are at levels at around 1 to 0.5, and that's nature has pulled it down to negative 0.75 at times, even closer to -1. So we're not pulling down anything that nature's pulled down. I just want to make that point. But we'll look at it a case-by-case basis.
We've seen that, Chairman, to add on, is not just recently. I mean, this has always been going on in our system. The higher you get up in the Prairieville area, you have a lot of sandy soil up that way, and it just is tough. to keep it stabilized, because if you go, the higher up you go in the parish, the more channel bank you have exposed near the water level, and it is just a prone characteristic of these channels. So we do take work orders on them, and we try to address them as any way we can, but I would say that it's not uncharacteristic of our system to get complaints on erosion. We try to maintain them.
And look, just for clarification, that was a comment a constituent made, and I was just wondering, are we seeing that? And I know we're holding them lower than what we used to, but my advisement to this homeowner was to put in a work order, which I think he did, and I might even send it to Ryan. So that's how we handle it. We just go and look at it. Okay, thank you.
With that being said, so yeah, Ryan, let's get up with him and let's see if we can get a little bit more detail and maybe have him come to the next meeting and we can discuss options.
We can do that, Chase. I'll get legal the copy of the cooperative endeavor that was done, and then the proposal from Lamondola, and we'll discuss the procurement of that if we try to go that route, what would need to be done as a legal standpoint as well. We'll come back to you guys.
All right, good deal. I appreciate the discussion and open mind to that subject. Thank you, everybody. Item 7E, we're going to move on to approval of resolution to authorize Parish President Clint Quimall to execute any and all documents needed for drainage servitudes. For drainage servitude needs to include but limited to servitude agreements, hold harmless, right of entry, temporary construction servitudes, etc. And further, we do hereby give him the power and authority to do all things necessary to implement, maintain, amend, and renew said documents. So before Mr. John Paul speaks to it. So the parish president currently does this, like we move Ascension on servitudes and right-of-ways. And speaking with Ron over the last 30, 40 years, we've always had just multiple parish employees kind of perform this, and it's not really, one set person. So we like to kind of just, streamline and make it, very black and white, who's signing our servitude agreements.
I have a question.
Yep, go ahead. Mr. Lawler?
Is this going to stand the test of time, though? And what I mean by that is, when we have elections down the road, are we going to have to do this with every president, or do we make it that it's the head of drainage does it? See what I'm saying? Right now, it's specific to one individual.
Hang on.
Check one.
Go ahead.
So obviously, we have a contract where I'm contracted. You'd probably add this language to the contract as it's renewed every year. And therefore, if you changed your mind, you would subtract it from the contract. But what you're doing is, since it wasn't clear in the contract, this is what would clear it up today. And that's what my discussion with Jean Paul and his explanation was to me. And I asked the chairman, would you like to sign all these servitudes, or would you like me to sign it like Move Ascension? He said, no, I'd like you to do it like you do for Move Ascension. And so that's what we're here to do. But I would imagine moving forward, it would be in whatever contract that you contracted to take over East Ascension Drainage, or be that authority for the board for day-to-day activities.
We're looking at contracts overall, and Ron brought me some servitude agreements to kind of form them up. And I was looking at the signature on some historical ones, and it's just different people signing, and I would start looking for resolutions from this board on that, and it wasn't there. And the charter's pretty clear on who signs. Now, we have a drainage director position that we're looking at, and you may change it at some point. But for now, I wanted it clear that A, there was a resolution, and to keep it uniform with the way the parish does things, that it be the same person, if you're good with that.
I'm not opposed to it. I'm just looking long-term to see. I don't want to have to do this every single year, every single contract. If there was a way to fix that, maybe.
Could we possibly put this parish president and not?
But once again, that's assuming the parish president's always going to be the head of drainage.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there could be. We could have the parish president and/or, because we can have multiple people that have the authority to sign things, right?
Yes.
We could have and/or the drainage director. Would that suffice?
Yes.
So I'm going to, just off the top of my head, make a amendment that it says, where it says, I hereby authorize Parish President Clint Quintenwall, we change it to hereby authorize the parish president and/or the drainage director blah, 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 blah.
All right, we have an amended motion by Mr. Lawler, a second by Mr. Robert. Any objections, any questions?
Chairman, real
Yes.
quick, I think there was a typo in the agenda item.
Okay.
We need to clarify. It puts it limited to. I think it's supposed to be not limited to.
Let me see.
When you read it,
Oh, yeah, on the second
just add
sentence.
the word not before limited to.
But not limited to. Would you like to?
I think the resolution is correct.
Is the resolution correct? I mean,
Is the resolution correct?
yeah,
Execute any all this and need to,
But
needs
it
to
says but
include
limited to.
but limited.
yeah, but, so I'll amend it to also add, but not limited to,
Okay,
because that would have been a big mistake.
yeah.
And to be clear, it should be or. Either one can sign. We don't.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
It should be just or.
Yeah,
Just
You're
or.
right, just or.
All right, so for clarification, approval of resolution to authorize parish president or the drainage director to execute any and all documents needed for drainage servitude needs to include but not limited to. Is that your amendment?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we have that amended motion by Mr. Lawler, a second by Mr. Robert. Any objection? Hearing none. Motion passes. Moving on to item 7F, discussion of the parish president concerns with hiring a drainage director, and turn it over to you, parish president.
Thank you, Chair. So I sent out an email dated June 9th. Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Parrish.
We missed an item?
Yeah, I have a speaker. I'm sorry, Ms. Polly Glover. She wants to speak on items G and H.
I'll just quickly address all of y'all. First of all, I just want to remind you, about a year ago, I guess, 10 months ago, we were here for pretty much the same issue. Here's the problem I have as a citizen. Two able-bodied men sit in this room. I'm going to call them both out, Clint and Ron. They're capable of doing drainage. For the first time in, however my years of living here in Ascension, we've actually got drainage improvements being made, okay? I don't think if I were in your position representing the citizens of Ascension that you're acting in good fiduciary capacity for the citizens. I can't justify a salary of $150,000 to $210,000 or whatever the range is, okay? We've got other challenges in the parish. That money is better spent elsewhere. I had scripted something, but truth be told, the two people most capable of doing this job are the two men sitting there. And if I were in your position with a duty and an obligation to the citizens of this parish, I couldn't justify the salary. That's all I got to say. It's not a justifiable salary. We've got other headaches in this parish. You're looking at a recession looming across the world. It's a worldwide recession. It's going to hit Ascension. Take that money and put it where it can be best used. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Ms. Glover. All right, Mr. President.
So, I sent an email June 9th. What was included in that was a little bit of what I've observed of the process of where we are today. And with the ADAPT program coming online, as well as some of the duties that were listed in the aforementioned Indeed proposal and things of that nature. What I did is I went in and I put together an Exhibit A with me and my staff. I didn't do this alone. It was a group effort with HR and Ron and Patrick and John, and we each take a look at this. But we got together all the comments from the councilmen. We got together the comments from SSA, as well as all of their concerns. And some of the duplications of efforts were obviously a huge concern. The salary range was obviously a huge concern due to the fact that doesn't exist for our top directors across the board. 133 is the highest pay we have for all of our superstars. And so in doing that, what I offered is a proposal to kind of streamline and take, have the board offer up the staff, my staff, and me as well, it's taking over some of the duties and hiring this person to fill the gap that's needed, which is clearly stated in that email. Obviously, that engineering degree, and there's no secret of the engineering shortage that exists out there, but that is the reason why we have that shortage in not only drainage, but transportation as well. And so we've hired a superstar in Lucy Casson. I think she's 100%, her and her team are capable of taking this task and going out and trying to recruit the best with oversight and direction of SSA. We want them in the process as much as possible. I've spoken to Christelle and explained to her my reasonings for this, and we had a great conversation. So in that is what's before you. I think we all have the common goal or the desire to get the most qualified individual to fill the most important need to elevate our drainage program. And I know that's important to me as it is to many of you. And I would like the opportunity to start streamlining this process so that we can go out and get that individual at affordable rate that doesn't upset the apple cart with all of the rest of our superstars and paying someone possibly more than every elected official in Ascension Parish. So with that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions about my proposal, but it is what it is. It's a proposal. You already have a contract signed with stipulations, and all this is a proposal. That's all it is for your consideration. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I just want to make a quick comment before we do have any conversation and whatnot. Look, first things first, it's a big major topic, so everybody, let's be respectful. And second of all, so I printed the job description via SSA that Ms. Slaughter had put together for it, been advertising. And then I put together the proposal from the parish president. And I went through and I highlighted things that are the same, things that are different, and things that everybody agrees that we need to fill. And I will tell you that as far as the minimum qualifications, the only difference between what SSA had for us and the parish president was that SSA asked for 7 years of responsible experience in municipal public works. Parish president has 5 years. The parish president also included a bachelor's degree. The job functions. So the job functions are extremely, extremely identical in the job functions. There's not a whole lot of difference here. The parish president did add he would like it to be an expert in hydraulic engineering experience. That was not on the SSA form. SSA did have that they would like this person to oversee the development of a parish-wide drainage maintenance plan. And outside of that, there's a few items that the parish president added: an ability to review drainage, engineering, construction plans, and then he would like this person to be involved with the human resource with the drainage district, like to review budgets and adjust for conformance to anticipated needs, review contracts. So before we dive off too deep in here, I just wanted to point out that there's not a whole lot of difference, very little difference in what SSA had proposed and what the parish president has coming for us. And with that being said, the biggest difference was the salary of the job. This board in October last year established that we'd be in the 130 to 210 range, and the parish president's proposal is a 150,000 annually max salary. So with that being said, I would like to open discussion for anybody who has some questions and concerns. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of all over the place here, but just for housekeeping, is it inappropriate to say that items 7, F, G, and H, we're all going to be consolidating that into one conversation.
I'll move to consolidate all those.
Okay, perfect. we got the parish president concerns, the discussion of the job description, and the discussion of the salary, and all of those are embedded in one document. So I probably could have cleaned up my agenda a little bit there. All right. Now, with that being said, Mr. Mason.
I'm actually wanting to know if Ms. Christel could come answer a couple of questions for me about all of this, because I know they've been dealing with this a lot, and I'd like to kind of first get her opinion on it, and then second, I know that you've been having some trouble getting some candidates, so I just wanted to see if you could give us maybe an update, and maybe if we're still having trouble, maybe the parish president's version of this could help us get some more candidates.
Yeah, so thank you very much. Good to see everyone. I actually changed the Indeed ad after I spoke with President Quentmaw to see if that would help. And within a matter of hours, we had an applicant. And then a couple of days later, we had an applicant who is interested in the higher salary range because I didn't change that quickly enough. And someone that I know, he called me. He used to be an elected official in Baton Rouge and is not really qualified for the job. So, and then while we were sitting here, we got an architect who applied. So I'll be very honest with you. The job description itself is not really effective in a posting. And I kept thinking we were going to get a tighter and more unanimous consent on the job description and structure and that sort of thing. But when we put out postings, we talk about the excitement of the job and who it's really designed for and who would really do well with it. Because you're really trying to pull people nowadays, and it's hard to pull technical people right now, as you said. And so, but we toned it down. There's a little bit in the first paragraph about Ascension Parish being an exciting place and, fastest growing, et cetera, et cetera. But honestly, it's a really pretty engineer type of ad. So I think we've looked at the number of other postings, not only on Indeed, but on other bulletin boards and things. And of course, everybody's looking right now. So, and we can change it. We can change it in the back of the room. So that's not a problem. But it's the networking. The best candidates that we have and have had interest from are people that either other people are saying, have you thought of so-and-so, or why don't you call so-and-so, or people that we've, talked with, some of the contacts that you all have given us, as well as engineering societies and people that we know. And but they have a lot of questions, I'll be honest with you. I'm really looking forward to hearing your discussion so that we'll get some answers to those questions. And Clint and I had a couple of comments in our conversation about reinforcing who this person would report to and those sorts of things. But there's still some things that I think are maybe not as clear as they should be in the management agreement. And or maybe they are clear, and we just need to understand that, because the better the candidate, the more interested they are in how many people am I going to supervise people, how many, who am I reporting to, who hires me, who fires me, am I a contract employee even though I'm reporting to the parish president? So I think those are the kinds of things that it's right on the next step. So before you impanel your 2 people from the parish president and 2 people from the drainage board, I think we ought to have those questions answered, because when people come to interview, they're going to want to know that. And some people aren't even going to come to interview because they don't want their employer to know they're looking, and so they want to remain confidential until the very last minute. So I think those are really the highlights of what I think we are looking for from you all and parish president.
Okay, thank you very much.
I would just, before we go to Ms. Lawler, just a quick comment. So, Ms. Christel and I have had many hour-long conversations about this over the last few months. And I told her last week, and I'll say it here, is at this time, I just feel like we set up Ms. Christelle and SSA for failure on finding such a top-end employee, because there has never been a majority consensus up here of what this person is going to do. Is this a high-level administrator that's coming in and over everybody, or is this more of an engineer, technical person? And this body has never, we've never had 6 people say this is what we want exactly. And so,
Right.
and look, and Miss Terry's out of town on a vacation, so this is a discussion, because I wouldn't want to vote on anything without her, because she's been a big part of this. But whenever she gets back in town, I invite her into the conversation. But the whole point of this is that in 8 months we've got nowhere, and it's not, the Drainage Commission isn't avoiding it, administration isn't avoiding it, you aren't avoiding it. We just have a very broad job here that doesn't put a whole lot of detail in a $90,000 gap in a pay range.
So let me maybe, the eternal optimist in me wants to say that I think this is the perfect time. And I wish this had been before we had a shortage of talent, certainly. But the reality is that now that you have selected your ADAPT program manager, that's an important box that's checked. So this person, we know, does not need to be the design hydrology expert of the world. They have an entire cadre of people that can work with you all and with them to design wonderful projects, help create master plans. So to me, the important words, and even in the highlighted section, is this person developing or overseeing? Is this person doing or coordinating? I think, we had a conversation about Ron and the people who have reported to Ron traditionally. And so is this person going to supervise anyone directly? Is this person going to advise Ron? And then Ron's people carry out mid-size projects? That one, I think, would be a little dicey with some of the candidates that we've talked to, because if somebody's going to be responsible and accountable for something and they don't have direct authority over people, that could be a little odd. But I think that's everything else that I just said, I think is very real. You have people to do things. I think what's important is for the Drainage Board and the parish president to decide, what is it now you really want? When all of this was written, it was theoretical. Okay, you've been at this for a while, and you've been doing pretty good with it. I see things in Jade's presentation, Ron, that they're beautiful. I mean, we dreamed about that stuff a year ago. So you've come a long way, but there's a lot that needs to be done. And, when we talk with people from Harris County and some of these other places that seem to have done a lot of heavy lifting, and they've done a very good job of it, they're moving fast. And they have help, and they have in-house talent, and they have contractor talent, and they're putting it all together. So back to what is it that the Drainage Board really wants? Are you looking for somebody to serve under the parish president who is sort of a in-house expert that you can turn to when you have questions? You have HNTB now. They play that role too, but they are a contractor. I've said this at the mic to you before about HR matters and compensation. Contractors work best when they are overseen by subject matter experts inside the organization, public or private, who kind of know what they're looking for and what they're doing. And so high expectations, high results. Do you need somebody asking questions, looking over things? Well, what about this? Kicking the tires so that when it comes to you, it's better. And that's whether it's a maintenance plan on day-to-day or whether it's capital projects that cost hundreds of millions of dollars. So I think that's really, if you can help define that, and then there are gaps, as the president said. There's sort of a mid-size project gap, and that you do need some in-house expertise for those kinds of things probably. So I hate tossing the ball back to you all, but I think that's really the thought process that would be helpful for you to go through, is what are we really looking for now that we're at this place, you know, and then we can help tweak it and we can get it out there.
I'm gonna go ahead and let Mr. Lawler ask questions or make his comments.
Yeah, thank you, Christelle. You know, I listened to a couple things. You know, just one of the things I heard about a contract employee. That is spelled out in section B6 of the contract. It says, shall be hired as a contract employee. It doesn't get any clearer than that. The goal of that was that we hire somebody that is going to withstand the test of administration to administration, also withstand the political pressures that come with being employed by somebody that may want them to do a certain thing. We need somebody that's going to have the backbone to do the right thing. And if they can't just be summarily fired because they disagree with somebody, that's why we have the contract employee in there, and that's why it was so important to put that in this contract. You know, we spent a lot of time, several of us up here, working on this contract. And, you know, for one, I was kind of shocked to see that it was executed on May 3rd. Why was this executed on May 3rd of 2022? Can anybody answer that? We approved this last year in 2019.
Right. Legal didn't draft this agreement. This was drafted by the members of the board. And so there's a process for doing legal documents where they originate in legal and then they go into the Munis system and they follow a track. And when the board, whether it's the council or the drainage board, drafts its own documents, doesn't consult legal, and then puts them into their own process, they don't follow our chain of command and our protocols. And also there was a dispute going on between members of the board and the administration. Legal represents both entities, and so we were conflicted out of this. And so when you come with a conflict situation where we're conflicted off and you draft your own legal documents and put them into motion, it's really incumbent upon you to follow through with whether they get signed or not. Now, we ultimately gave approval once all that negotiating was done as to the process, as to getting signatures on it. There was a transition of the boards. The last drainage director did not get it done, and we realized that and took care of it.
Well, I was just a good faith effort to get this signed earlier should have been had. So that was a little concerning, but you know, we spent a lot of time working on this. I know I sat with some of the guys up here, and to come back and now it's like we're going to renegotiate this. No, we spent a lot of time working on something in a rough time for this parish, and now to come back and try to renegotiate it at the last minute, I'm very disappointed with that. Now, I understand that there's some things that we may want to clear up in the ads, but that's different than let's change substantive matters of the salary. Things of that sort. We're not going to get a good person unless we're willing to pay for it. Especially now, as we all know, people are harder to hire because of cost. You have to pay for it. If you want good things, you have to pay for it. And I'm willing to pay for something good here. So how do we find top-level people? Good people want to be held accountable. They want to have responsibility. They don't want to be held accountable for something that they have no responsibility for, yet could be criticized for not doing their job. So we have to make sure this person is not only accountable, but for what they're accountable for, they are responsible for, directly responsible for. I think that's going to be a huge part of this. I've said all along, we're hiring a director. We're not hiring another engineer to go stamp projects. We're hiring a director to help direct our drainage department. One of the things with Move Ascension and this new ADAPT program, Move Ascension, we didn't just hand over transportation to HNTB, but I'm hearing that everything in drainage, HNTB will do that, HNTB will do that. No, HNTB is a contractor with us. We have to have people within the parish that are going to be the liaisons, that are going to be working with them, that are going to deal with our finance department, our legal department, our HR department. That's what a director is going to do. It's going to work with them. We also are going to have drainage projects, and we heard about several here tonight, that are not going to be part of the ADAPT program. We're not going to be fixing a neighborhood's drainage problem or a culvert or whatever it may be, these small projects, as part of the ADAPT program. They're working on big projects. We are still going to have the need for a director in East Ascension drainage and that's what a director is. They direct things. They also go out looking for funding. Once again, the ADAPT program is looking at big projects. There are other funding sources out there that this person can work on. In Move Ascension, we have portions of it that deal with the big stuff, but every day I'm talking to Joey about smaller projects that we have to do, and he's our director for that. He's doing a great job with it. He needs some help. Said it 100 times. Get the man some help. But so that we're looking for somebody with big picture. I really don't believe we're looking just for some engineer that's going to come in and stamp a project, and that's something that we have talked about consistently. Now, Mr. President, you've been aware of this process. It was part of the contract. You've always been able, if you needed to call me, Christelle, Chase, anybody up here, if you want to understand the recruitment process better, please feel free to talk to us, because it's in the contract. There's a lot of information on there. As far as you having direction in it, we have got a process. It was in your contract that says specifically how it's done, how we're going to hire a third party, and the third party is very important. Now, if y'all listen to what Ms. Christelle said, is we have candidates that want to remain confidential, because these may be some good candidates, but if it's our HR department doing this, that means that they're no longer confidential, and we're going to lose some good candidates. There was a reason we put this in the contract to have a third party handling that portion of it, because we knew that there are good candidates out there that may not want their employers knowing that they're applying for this job. So that was a very important part of this. That's part of this process. We also were putting together, let's see, where is it? A professional review board. Now, I know several of us have been working on it. Chase, you began soliciting people in May of this year, May 18th of 2022. I sent an email to the council, to Clint and Christelle on May 24th regarding a timeline, what these people may be able to expect. And I've spoken with some people here. Administration, we need your input. Y'all haven't responded to that. We need your input as to what kind of timeline. We as the East Ascension Drainage Commission and the administration, I know we're coming up with people to sit on this review panel. Have y'all started on that, Mr. President?
Happy to.
No, I'm just asking on that one specific question.
No, I'm not. I'll answer all your questions when you're done.
Well,
so go ahead.
It's just
continue. I'm writing your questions down. Continue.
Okay. Well, that is something that's very important to this process, that we have this review panel that is going to, help us with these candidates. They're going to go through them. They're going to see who's the best, make some recommendations to the parish president. He's going to get to review them. We're going to ratify these people. We have a process in place. It is ready to go. We have the money to pay for this. Anybody that thinks that this is not an important position is crazy. Simple as that. You're crazy if you don't think this is an important position, with drainage being one of our biggest issues. I mean, I can tell y'all, to hear that in the past, this is the only time that we've had improvements in the parish in drainage, I think people think that's ludicrous. We've had new pumps put in, we've had new locks, we've had dredging, we've had maintenance going back 20 years. So it's very short-sighted to think that, oh, this is the first time we've had that done. We're doing good. We can do better. I mean, we talked about it, Joel and I had a good conversation today in front of the council about overtime, how we may be able to spend less, put more money into different things, into actual fixes. We need a good drainage director. We're ready to move on that. I know that we have some good candidates out there. We may be able to get some better candidates, but a lot of these things that I've seen here, there is going to be some overlap. There should be overlap. People should be looking at what other employees are doing. We should have people looking at what HNTB is doing. We should have an employee that is doing that. And that's what this director is going to do. This director is an extremely important position. We're not looking for somebody to go rubber stamp ideas. Simple as that. So we get my question answered, I guess, if we started.
Mr. President?
Okay. So let's start with the contract employee. Rewatched the video, and Chase specifically asked, can it be a parish employee and have a contract? And that was answered by legal at that date, and it said yes. So Chase said, well, then I'll no longer talk about B3 to B6 because I wanted to ensure that it could be a parish employee. And from what I understand is ratification is not a requirement of East Ascension Drainage. It is a requirement under the Home Rule Charter. So this person would be a parish employee, which means they would be direct to me. It would do a report direct to me as stated in the contract as well. As far as criticism and this person taking criticism, the criticism falls on me. I'm the one under the contract. I'm the one in charge. This director has no direct criticism other than working as a team member. And that's an important concept because that's what we built here. We built a team in parish government. And to have a body out, someone out there to stand up to the parish president as stated, that's not team, okay? That's not culture change. That is as hiring someone to be in a disagreement or a roadblock to progress is what that is. And so it can be a parish employee, and they could still have a contract from what I understood is they wanted it to pass from administration to administration. So the contract would be for, say, a 4-year period to where it would start midterm of a term and then would overlap an election, and then they would be there with the ability of the board to fire this person as stated in the contract at any given time if they didn't compete on that. So the contract, as far as contract employee, that was brought up by Chase and was clearly given a legal opinion that it could be a parish employee, and to be ratified is under the Home Rule Charter, not East Ascension Drainage. So the ratification is not a requirement of East Ascension Drainage, but it is a requirement of an Ascension Parish employee. And so when you add up the math and you look at what $150,000 with benefits, it comes real close to $200,000 in actual pay when you add in those 38% of benefits. So you get that pay range, and that's what some of our employees close make, our superstars, when they're in that 140 to 150 with benefits. That's what you're paying, and that has value. That you can't just say that I'm gonna offer them 200 with no benefits. I mean, can you imagine with benefits 200,000 at 38% to that? I mean, it's astronomical. I can't ethically want to pay someone that's more than the school board superintendent, who is the highest paid person in the parish, who runs the entire school system, and gets paid roughly what the high end of this is. And not even a single elected official, sheriff, clerk of court, assessor, parish president, anybody makes close to this. And so you talk about a misuse of funds. I would say that's absolutely a misuse of funds. And what does that do to the morale to every single other superstar that we hired in this organization to watch a person come in who you don't know their history, you don't know their capabilities, and all of a sudden you're starting them over $200,000 when the rest of them get paid $130,000? Do you know that the upset employees that you will have in parish government and feel slighted, every single one of them, and that's not even your top tier, because this person hasn't proven anything. Zero. Nothing. Not a single thing. And so we have experts to oversee HNTB. They're Hartman Engineering and FTN. We've hired experts. And when it comes to hiring experts, we can't hire the people that HNTB has on there. You go try to hire a guy from Harris County. We can't afford him. That's why we pay HNTB. Because they got this, because we can't afford to have that on the payroll. Because there's no position that warrants that kind of pay here. And so that's why we hire ADAPT. That's why we hire HNT, because they have top-of-the-notch engineers that we cannot afford to hire. That's why we do that. That's why we hire Hartman Engineering, because we don't have anybody on staff to handle that. Because we can't afford Jared. He won't come work here. But we can sure sign a contract for him to do our engineering. And so we have those abilities to do that. That's not non-existent. And I don't have zero problem with the review panel, but I can tell you this, any contract, and as where we are today, can be amended at any given time when it's not going in the right direction by either party or both parties when in agreement. So you don't have to say this is written in stone, because it's not. I watched this council change their mind at a whims any given time because they found a better solution or a better path forward. It's done all the time. And there's no reason not to do it today. This needs to be a superstar hire. I will agree 100% with Lawler all day long on that. But at the cost of everything else, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And it will be an injustice for this parish organization to have a person come in at that kind of salary. I can tell you that. It will be a slap in every single parish employee's face. And that's the truth. And it's my responsibility to build that culture and that team. And I can tell you this will wreck it. This will wreck it. But we got an opportunity to make a great hire here. And I just want to be part of that process. And that's what I'm asking this board tonight, to allow me to be part of that process. That's my comments, Chair.
Will you please answer my question, though?
Which one? I did. I thought the review panel?
Yes, have you started the review panel?
Yes, it's zero problem with the review panel. But let's first figure out what this person's supposed to be doing. You gonna let me finish? You want me to answer your question?
Well, you didn't.
Let's figure out what this person's supposed to be doing before we get a review panel to look at an employee who has no idea what they're doing, because the duplication of efforts is constant. We've got a floodplain administrator doing all this. Marcy Shivers was Employee of the Month. She came before all of you. She does a great job, fabulous job. Adapt in our engineering services and our consultants that we can't afford to have on the payroll. They do these services. Let's fill the gap that's needed, that needed to elevate this program. And let's agree what that is, because it's not this. It's not countless redundancy of every program that exists. It's not that. Okay? Let's find what will elevate this program. And I want to work with you to do that. And that's what I'm asking tonight.
Mr. President, please answer my question. Have you started getting names for the review panel?
No, I have
okay,
not,
that's all
because this person doesn't know what they're doing.
It's a simple question, though.
No, I have not.
This is illustrative of the problem we have. We're not getting responses from you.
You just
Not
got
direct-
a whole list of them.
It's very difficult to get responses, which is a violation of the contract.
Of course, you're going to violate the contract. That's all I hear from you. Roadblock,
All right, we're not
roadblock,
doing this.
roadblock.
We're not doing the back and forth. Ms. Christel, I would like to make a comment, and I'm gonna try not to make you mad or put you in a weird spot.
I don't get mad.
But I feel
I
like
burn slowly.
if this, if this listing, this description was perfect, kosher, as it is written today, I have a feeling you would have came to us and say, hey, I got some pretty good people. We need to get the ball rolling and start interviewing these people.
It's not what's written, Councilman. It's not about what's written. It's the unwritten parts of how do they report in. Are you looking for someone who's going to take your floodplain manager and your planning director and your operations director and say, I'm looking over day-to-day, mid-size, capital projects, and I think the timing of this is good. I think we need to wait on this part of the maintenance plan until we come in and get more information from this over here. This is what we saw at the state level. That's one version of a drainage director for the parish. Another version of the drainage director is where they have a specified set of responsibilities. They have maybe even some staff and equipment that they are responsible for, and they have other department heads that they collaborate with. So in that model, they might be the mid-sized person working with people who are doing the day-to-day, and then a consulting firm who's handling design and program management of large capital projects. Those are very different roles. So all I can do is go by what I've heard you all talk about and discuss before, and we are really good listeners, and I usually have other ears with me and some that are home taking copious notes with what you all say. And so when you started this journey, it seemed like you wanted someone who was going to look across all elements of drainage and be someone who would then come to the drainage board with budgets and oversight and coordination and monitoring and that sort of thing. You don't have to necessarily direct all of those things, they can, they don't have to. We talked about that briefly on the phone the other day. How does this person relate to Ron, for example? How does this person relate to, your other department heads?
Right, so the first thing that kind of comes to mind is whenever you talk about our floodplain coordinator and our planning director, those people are not beholden to this commission. They're parish employees who are ratified
They
by.
affect your flooding. They affect stormwater management,
So I'm just
floodplain
worried.
management, and flooding. And that's my point. That's exactly my point. So what you see in some places, take the state of Louisiana. We have CPRA, right? It's an authority. But there are departments represented on that authority. So we have DOTD, and we have Department of Natural Resources, and we have wildlife, different agencies that are represented there. And we have people who are looking across all of that. And so, we've worked with HNTB on 3 studies with the state of Louisiana trying to figure that out. There is no one perfect way to do it. It's what are the resources we have? What are the challenges we have? How do we try and make this happen? So Chip Klein doesn't direct Sean Wilson at DOTD, but he sure does watch. Okay, wait a minute. We're putting assets at a part of the state where we are no longer going to support this anymore after a certain date. So why are we doing it? That's the kind of collaboration. It's just who's going to play that role. But that's a very different role from somebody who's going to be, actually in whether it's day-to-day operations or mid-size operations or just working on capital projects. So that's why this is hard to do, and it's hard to discuss in this way. It's almost like it needs to be workshopped. What are you really looking for? Why do you want this? What assistance do you want the parish president to have so that you all feel that you're representing the citizens of the parish, which is, the ultimate goal.
Right. And I guess that's the main reason for the topic tonight is, in 8 months, we haven't made much headway. I mean, we had to, I don't know, I feel like we have to readdress it, right? I mean, something has to give one way or the other on how we move forward.
But it's not the job description. That's not the problem.
Okay.
The problem is, what really are you looking for? Because when we snag the interest of someone and they start asking questions, there's not solid answers. There's not a right or wrong answer. It might be wrong for that person, but it's what's important to you all, and what is it what are we trying to fill? What's that position supposed to look like? So
I think that might have to be the next route I take is between now and July. I have to throw some workshops, 3 or 4 at a time of us, and parish president would be invited to those meetings and sit down and see if we can find something that a consensus of most people agree on.
Would it be wise to include her?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, SSA will be there. But it's just, I don't know. We have so much stuff going on in drainage. Every month I get hit with this.
Yeah.
Questions from, commissioners and
Yeah.
conversation with you and I'm ready to get this done.
I think it's fun to call people at, their kids' baseball games and stuff. So let me go back to things that I don't think are hard. And maybe it was just because I was standing on a street corner in Washington, D.C. with a lot of buzzing and traffic and trying to hear Clinton. We had sort of a bad connection, but it was good enough. But I think we worked through, no, they really do report to you. And okay, you could have a contract, smart people can figure it out. It covers this, it doesn't cover that. The council they still need to go into the pay plan. They're still a parish employee. The HR people have to put the job description in. We know all about that. So those seem like they're big. Those to me aren't big. I think even the things that would be bigger things in other places, you got really great people who work here. So, I mean, Ron and I haven't had this conversation in a long time, but Clint and I did. So does that person work next to Ron? Does that person work over Ron in some cases? Does that person work under Ron? I think people just want this all to work. And I don't think Ron Savoy's on a power trip. So I just think that, those kinds of things we can work out. It's just, what do you all want the role to be? What is it that you want when you envision this drainage director? And I think we all started down the road going fast and saying, okay, we got to get this going. And we didn't really answer that question. I'm not sure we could have, honestly, 8 months ago. This was all a new concept. So I think now you see how it can work and what are the opportunities and what are the challenges. And so that's where I think if you can handle that, some of the rest of the things kind of come along.
All right, let's take questions. All right, Mr. Lawler, Mr. Mason, and then Mr. Wagasback.
I have if I can interject here,
Yes.
just for clarity.
There you go. Go ahead, John Paul.
The individual is going to be an employee of Ascension Parish, okay? But he's going to be subject to contract terms as to hire, fire, and how he's fired, okay? I want to make sure we're not talking about an independent contractor or somebody. I think that might be confusing some people. I want to just make sure that we're talking about an employee who has some contract terms.
Yeah, in November, whenever I proposed a few amendments to this agreement, that was made clear with Mr. Kenneth, that it'll be a parish employee, but the only difference is that it'll have a timeline tied to its contract.
All right. Very good.
Yeah.
And I do think the important clauses and terms are the hiring and firing, especially the termination, right? So who and how, and you have a little bit of that spelled out, but I think in a contract you could do a much better job of tying that up.
Yeah, I remember going over that in November. That's why it wasn't a concern to me. That's why I was a little shocked that I heard that they can't be a contract employee. So no, we're going to have a contract with this person. We're going to give them the authority they need. One of the important things, again, is getting somebody that's going to look across departments. It's going to look at recreation. That's going to talk to the people in recreation. That's some of our biggest drainage issues that go into these parks, and maybe we could combine things with recreation to make sure that we're doing double duty there. That's going to work with our planning and zoning department. Now I heard, they work directly in parish government. You know what? The parish president can direct them to work with this person. That problem solved. I mean, I heard it earlier tonight. We've always done it that way. Man, there are a million solutions to this stuff. It doesn't have to be the way it's always been done. We need somebody that's going to look across departments, work with every department, work with HNCB, work with the president, work with us. I frankly, I have no desire, and it would be a waste of money, to hire somebody that's going to do day-to-day direction of a team digging stuff out. That would be a waste of our time and effort that we've put into this if we're going to go that direction. And if that's the case, we would have done a disservice to the all the citizens. Now, I've heard in the past saying that this position is too big for one person. And I think that's equally as ludicrous, especially when you think of what we have right now, is we have a parish president that's over drainage, transportation, utilities, whole other story there, by the way, recreation, HR, everything. This position is not too big. We have a joint chiefs of staff that looks over multiple areas of the military. They're not day-to-day planning everything. So this position can be handled by a single person. It is in other parishes and other counties. It's done all the time. So that argument to me doesn't fly that this is too big. You always have a director. We have a parish president that's ahead of all those other things I talked about. And to say it's too big for him, I'm not going to do that. We have the opportunity here to go out and get a real director, not a high-level manager. It's not what we need. We don't need somebody managing a group of people. We need somebody that's going to look at our department, look and work with it. And, they may spend half their time actually thinking about things and coming up with better ideas for how we do things and looking into new things. That's what I'm envisioning here, doing the budget oversight, working with all the departments, monitoring all of our departments. I expect this person is going to have monthly meetings with our transportation department, with our recreation department, and planning department, and utilities department, maybe. But those three, that should happen all the time to see, hey, what are y'all doing? What is coming up? What do I have to be on the lookout for? That's what we need, because drainage touches all of that. And if we decide that we're going to build a park somewhere, drainage sure as better be involved. And if a new subdivision is coming up, more than just getting it approved, let's look at the long term of what that means for the area. That's what we need. So I'll leave it at that. I didn't want this to be a contentious thing, but we have to do the right thing here. We didn't spend all this time and go through all of last year to hire somebody to look at a team of individuals and have them working under them. That's not what we did all this for.
All right, Mr. Mason.
So instead of just going back and forth all night, I would like to do some kind of an action plan. So I kind of like the idea, Chase, you had. I would kind of like to maybe revisit it in a different direction. Have what like kind of like a stakeholders meeting. So have the 2 drainage chairs. You know, you can elicit our information from emails, because I've noticed that when we do workshops in the past, they're poorly attended. So I would say, you know, what we think as the Drainage Commission, we can email you guys, have a stakeholder meeting with you two, the parish president, Christelle, you know, maybe HR from the parish, you know, just get people who are going to be involved with this person and hash all of this out. Let's get it crystal clear. Let's make sure that there's no questions. So that way, whenever Christelle starts, you know, meeting with these candidates, she has all the answers she needs. And if she's in this meeting with us, she can say, here's the questions that are going to be coming. What do you guys think? And we iron that out. We get it crystal clear. Everything there's nothing left up to interpretation. And that way we can stop having these 3-hour meetings where nothing's getting accomplished. I mean, I understand we're going back and forth, but at the end of the day, we have to have something to come from this. And I like your idea, Chase, of having a meeting, but I think that if we try to do, you know, you said you want this done by July, there's no way we're going to have 4 meetings with all of us, or 3 meetings, however many, in time, and then meet with the parish president and everybody and iron this all out. So just ask us, you know, give us a timeline, say, I'd like your ideas by this date, and then you bring them in. You and Aaron bring them in. And I think that would be the most efficient use of time, and we don't have to sit here and discuss this all night and keep everybody here way too late.
Crystal clear or crystal?
Can we please leave? This is why I'm ready to leave. Joel starts losing it after 9 p.m. Thank you. That's my stuff.
So he didn't answer.
All right, Mr. Wagespat.
Yeah, so, along the lines of what Michael's saying, you know, as a path forward, I mean, and I talked to Clint today, I mean, I'm willing to hear any proposal. I mean, a couple comments I would have is, yes, HNTB will be running the ADAPT program. I would say at the time when all this happened, we didn't want engineering firms. We didn't want to pay for them. So we've come full circle, and that's a good thing. You know, I think we see the fruits of what's coming out of the HNTB project. Or the contract, and now we've given them another contract. So that's good. I think that's steps in the right direction. I think communication's better. However, I think there's some things in this agreement that are not there yet. And Clint, if we do go a different direction, I think that is going to fall on you and Ron to pick up that torch. Long-term planning, you know, drainage maintenance plans. I'm just reading this out of the contract. Going over the budget, talking about long-term goals, where we spending the budget. I mean, I'd like to see more on that as we move through this. In addition to that, you know, some of the things you lined out in your Exhibit A, you know, Ascension Parish Floodplain Manager, Ascension Parish Stormwater Program Manager. I'd still like to see, you know, as part of your proposal is what you want this new person. If we go in a different direction, we don't want to do a drainage director. You know, I'd like to see that what you want, because you did say Ron needed help, the drainage department needed help. We said that, so, and I think that's still valid. There's some holes, but, you know, I would like to see you and your team, right? It's not just on you, but you're over this team. Present what we look like today as an organization. Show us where the gaps are, and some of these folks, and again, today we talked and I realized that she's been up here, but sometimes we don't realize, you know, we have a short exposure to some of this. So tell us how these folks fit in, tell us who they are, and, you know, tell us what the yearly goals are and how do we set the budget accordingly. So, you know, as we move forward, I'm willing to consider any new direction, but, you know, I think it has to have some details and some plans to it. And, you know, I look forward to seeing that as we move forward. I mean, the only way to you know, I said to you earlier, I mean, the only way to prove a new direction is for you to present it, your team to present it and tell us why it's better than, you know, this proposed path that we all got on. But yeah, I think we're all working together better. I think we definitely have an opportunity to consider a new direction. It just, you know, it has to be specific and it has to have things attached to it, goals and what's going to be presented when. I think in finance, we're getting towards we're going to go over budgets, but I think that also needs to be part of departments also. So that would be my comments.
All right, Mr. Cagnolati.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just briefly, I agree with Michael. We need an action plan, and a lot of comments have been moving or pointing in that direction. Christelle, poor thing, she's a consultant, but she's been hammered from all different directions and not really been able to nail this thing down, and I think that's pretty obvious. But I agree with Michael. We invite all, but if you have to break it down into smaller meetings, more of them, so be it. That'll do it. Thank you.
Mr. Robert.
I just wanted to kind of echo what Commissioner Cagnolati was saying. I think we should each have a chance to talk about this instead of having it to where only a certain few of us do it. And maybe that means we do this in one day, meaning it could be a term of over 3 hours or so, and so many of us come the first hour, some of us come the second hour and the third hour, including the stakeholders. But I think this is something that each one of us commissioners need to be involved in before the next meeting. That's all.
Mr. Turner.
Just a quick question, Christelle. As far as the salary range, is that the biggest issue as far as being able to hire somebody that the people who, I guess, the board or commissioners technically won't come for that salary?
What's the first thing you want to know?
So when you start saying that you want a certain amount of hydrology experience and people are you're pushing up what you're looking for, it costs more. So you're not the first client we've ever had. I mean, just imagine what it's like working with a business person where it's coming out of their own pocket, right? I'm either taking home this profit or I'm paying it to this person. So we got some people who are pretty tight. And so we can know that it's going to be a challenge. If it's mission impossible, we say then it's not going to happen. You know, is it possible that we could find someone for $150,000? I think we've been told by a number of consultants who work with you all that that's sort of, that just gets you in the game with somebody. And then the more we add on what we want them either to do or to have done, then you're sort of putting it higher and higher. We have talked to a couple of interested candidates that are this and more, and they're expensive. At that point, that's your choice about whether you want to do that or not. I'm very respectful of the pay plan because we feel a very big sense of ownership in it. We've been helping Lucy with it. So we probably had 40 hours of discussion on all of that. And I think she'll add a lot of value to this. I agree. And I think it'll be terrific to have her, here and listening and helping with all of that. So I can't tell you that you won't get anyone for a lower amount. I don't think you should spend the high end of it. I think there was a sweet spot that was much lower, but that at least gave you the opportunity to go out and see what's in the market and kind of see what's out there. The worst thing you can do as a search consultant is bring people the best and the candidate that they just fall in love with. And she be great, and then they find out they're too expensive. So that's the only thing that we may get to at some point in the process is some of the people who are talking with us who are great. They're going to leave a job. we can probably help somebody justify a lateral move. When you start taking a cut in pay, then that's hard. So now we're either looking for somebody, I've said this before, on the way up, or Patrick Goldsmith, who retired, and y'all happen to get him right at that moment in time. We're looking for those people, believe me. But, I think that's something you're just going to have to, we got to get a little further down the road to figure out really where that is.
So in your opinion, what will we get for 150?
Somebody who maybe meets the minimum qualifications. I don't think you can get a professional engineer for that. But somebody who meets minimum qualifications, who maybe has had a little bit of experience, a little more experience in this area than the average civil engineer or whatever. So I think that's what you'll get. I think that, it's not all about the money, but I do think that there are flooding problems everywhere in the United States. I mean, we have people from Miami to the East Coast who are technically qualified and have seen things and done things, take our work order system and make it sing. And they're good, and they, it's not that they know they're good, that they're smug. They just know the value of what they bring to an organization. And obviously the cost of living in other parts of the country. Sarah and I were sitting back there talking about a candidate tonight, and, how could we convince this person that the cost of living really is that much lower, that, this is really a lateral move. And sometimes that works, sometimes you create an attractive enough situation where this is a great step in a person's career. That's really what we're looking for. And that's why the other answers are important when you're trying to sell the position to them. I'm just being honest. I hope you could get somebody for 150. Your consultant said that's just going to be you got to at least be there. So, and that's the top of where we top out kind of at 133, that labor grade. So, but we're still trying. I think the conversation tonight has helped. I think if we could have the kind of, maybe conversation that you're talking about in one day and pull it all together, that might be helpful. Then we'll have a little more information. But this has been helpful.
I guess just to sum it up. So basically what I'm actually hearing is it's not going to happen for 150 for somebody that the board is going to want.
I wouldn't say completely no. I mean, think about the law profession, right? So if you're looking for an attorney who's in a specific, area of the law, and they can make big bucks in a big firm, these men and women can make big bucks in a consulting firm. They're rare. The best ones, they're really good. Like the parish president said, they're out of our range. They're higher than even what's in the management agreement in a lot of cases with performance bonuses. But can you, find somebody who has that potential and can move up? Maybe. Somebody found those people along the way. So that's what you're looking for. It's just tougher right now than it normally is, but doesn't mean it's impossible. I do think that you may end up with someone who has a lot of what you're looking for, but doesn't have it all, because you're coming in a little bit lower than where they would normally be. But I can't definitively say that you couldn't get somebody for that. And I'm honest with you. I would tell you if I thought that was true. So I think now that we have some answers, reports to the parish president, is a contract employee, would know who and how they get terminated. Management agreement says they have performance metrics, either in their contract or some kind of way. So you start doing that, you start giving people clarity about the job. And I think that's going to help a lot.
All right, Mr. Lawler.
I guess two questions. Now that I looked up the Indeed thing, as far as a professional engineer, I have my opinions on it, but do you feel that it's necessary to find a good director, that they have to be a professional engineer? That they have to be an actual PE?
We've had we had that discussion in the parish president's conference room 8 months ago. Nice to have, maybe preferred, but I don't think you're going to find one right now.
And not necessary to get a good director?
No.
That'd be fair? My next question is, we're only advertising up to 150,000, but we have authorized per the contract up to 210,000.
That is a very good question, and you all need to tell me what you want me to do.
Yeah,
Management agreement says that, parish president's information said that. I thought it'd be kind of fun when I got the copy from Chase, I think that was on Friday. Let's put that up there. We had already paused the other one. So let's just put up that with that salary, and let's see what happens. And as I said, we got a couple. Three.
Yeah, I mean, have we advertised for the amount stated in the contract?
Yes, yes.
And that's...
And the first two of the three in this round, it did have that higher salary in it, the higher range.
I mean,
So we were going
Should we
off
go
of
back to that?
Well,
I mean,
you all-
doesn't that broaden our, we don't have to pay that, but it broadens our appeal. Would that be fair?
Yes, and people should know when they apply for a job that the range that's posted, and we have in there salary commensurate with experience, that it doesn't necessarily mean you're at the top of the range.
I think most people, most people that have been in business before understand that. And generally, you also try and pay people at the midpoint of that range all the time, and that's what we do here in the parish. I mean, I'd certainly like to see us go back. It doesn't have to be 210,000, but make it 190, make it 200,000, because I think, especially in these days, we're going to get better opportunities. I mean, we're talking, that's $30,000. That's not a lot to pay for some. That's not a lot of $40,000 to go to 190.
Right.
It's not a lot of money to go and get somebody that's going to be running drainage.
I've told you this before. We don't even like to put salaries in ads. We like somebody to be interested enough to call us or to send in their resume. Well, because I think we were struggling with that and thought, you had a range that was in your agreement. We'll just put that in there. The reality is that a lot of times, if people are curious about a position, they don't always know what the range is. And they go ahead and apply and they go down the path, or they'll ask a question early on. We can never answer that question. Even if our client has given us a pretty tight range, we can't say where you're going to be placed in that range until you get further along. We see what's the competition. Do they have other people that are like you? Do they have, what are you bringing to the table? How well do you interview? What are your references saying? So there's a whole lot more information that comes after that helps to see where that person needs to be. I mean,
I think that'd be a worthwhile option is if we take out the salary range, because anybody worth their salt can probably do the research and figure out what the salary range is, by the way. But if we did it without a salary range, does anybody have any objection to going forward with that? I mean, maybe we'll get somebody that wants to do it for 70,000.
Yeah.
Would that be okay? Anybody?
I think that's a good compromise in the short run.
Well, I'd like to I'd ask that you do that.
That's your standard procedure, you said, Ms. Christel, that y'all normally don't like to post the salary range?
Yeah, we don't. I would like after this conversation to go back and not put the whole job description in and put more of a role description and why it's a great career move for people, and put salary commensurate with experience. Just leave that in there, and let's see what happens with that. We have the opportunity to put this on some bulletin boards, the ICMA. We've hesitated until we thought that we had clarity about what we were going to post. Once you post on something like that, and it's really going, some of the engineering societies here in the state, and it's really going directly to engineers, if you blow it, you don't get to pull it back. Indeed, to me, are people surfing around looking at things. So you can put them up, take them down, put them up, take them down. But we're ready to post them on bulletin boards. So I think, if we go with something like that, and I can work with Lucy, she and I have had that conversation before, and how to attract candidates. and we can try that and see what we get networking-wise with the little broader, descriptions of the role and a better understanding of what you're looking for. And then as you workshop it, then I think, we can go back and tweak that.
Okay.
It's a pretty good compromise. You want to do that?
Yeah. Mr. President.
Thank you, Chair. So I think we really need to do the workshop, okay? Because even if you go back and do this posting, there's still so many things unknown and unsaid. I think councilman or board member, I'll call you councilman, it doesn't matter really, Wagasback was probably more on point tonight of what I think this person should be, and that was what was originally discussed in bringing someone in to help Ron. It doesn't matter if you chart this person over Ron or on the side of Ron, it doesn't matter, they still report to me. And so it doesn't matter. But the pay matters, because I have to hire this person under what is in the contract, okay? And that matters. So that's something we're gonna have to talk about in the workshop, because I just can't throw away tax dollars like that. I just tell you ethically, I just can't sleep at night knowing that we would bring someone in to make this kind of money without knowing their capabilities, their processes. When we got superstars on staff that will make less than them, it is really, really, really troubling. I will tell you, because it was commented, this person's not going to department and overseeing all of that. That's not going to happen. That's my job. And I don't want, that's why we need to do this workshop, because nobody's going to dictate on how I run the parish. That's what I was elected to do. That's what I was elected, parish president, to be the administrator. And so saying that this person is going to go and over in recreation and do this and do that, that's not going to happen. I built a team to succeed, and I'm going to nurture that team. And I'm going to make those decisions, because that's what I was elected, and that's what the taxpayers entrusted in me to do. And I'm going to do my job. So we really need to do a workshop. We probably need to do a couple, because we really got to go over some of these things in order for this to work. So, but Councilman Wagasback, you're probably the closest on point on what I see this person and why we're bringing them to this organization is to say that Ron was overwhelmed, and we need somebody taking that upper end of that load off of him so that he can concentrate on more of his duties, day-to-day operations, and getting things done. And that's what was originally intended. So I think some workshops would be a proponent, and if you want to send Christelle out to make some more postings with all these things unsaid and unknown, you can. You're just setting her up for failure again. And as she was before the ADAPT program came online, she's asking for everything under the sun because she doesn't know what ADAPT does. She don't know until tonight.
I think I do.
You do now. But
No,
that you're
I think
able
I
to take a
do,
look at that
because-
long list of people that resource has with engineers and PEs to the nth degree that me and Chase sat in a lunch and learn and just was befuddled by the information that they showed us, what the capabilities of the modeling and the resources they have. Just befuddled, because we both walked away with the words wow in our mouth of what we witnessed and what we saw and what they're going to offer. So with that being said,
Can I interject one other thing here from legal? We have salary ranges that are put in by ordinance, and we would probably have to change that if we were going to go up. And so before we make offers that are outside what's in an ordinance, you want to look at whether you want to make offers to people on things that haven't been voted on by the board.
You're a long way from making an offer. You've got to form the professional review panel, and they've got to pick people, they've got to pick people, you've got to have interview. I mean, there's a whole lot of work. So that would have to happen before the offer's made, but that's way down the road.
Right, but I mean, we're posting and putting out there.
That's not an offer. That's.
So.
No, we still got another agenda item.
We're going to take it off, so there you go.
You amended it.
And that was that was one thing. And the other is on hiring and firing. We need to look at the charter because I believe the charter says that only the parish president can terminate. And so we got to look at whether you can contractually change what's in the charter. And we can give some parameters pursuant to contract, but really you may only be able to do term under contract, which is length of employment. So we need to look at those things too.
Mr. Wagesback.
Yeah, just in conclusion, no, I would just ask Mr. President, before these workshops come out, to try to have a skeleton of what I was talking about earlier, I think. So I always look at, my job today, my boss tells me, don't come ask me what you want me to do, but come tell me what you want to do and have that laid out. And that way we're here to say we don't like it or we do like it, right? I mean, to me, if we get rid of this drainage director, if we go a different direction, it'll be because you sold us on who you are and your team and what you want to see and what help you need. So I would say that would be a suggestion from me is have that ready before these workshops, or else we'll just be having circular discussions for hours. So that was just my final comment.
Okay. Yes, that's what I'll do, Ms. Christelle. I'm reach out here, try to set up in the next few weeks, maybe offer, try to keep it to 1 or 2 days, because I know how busy you are, and it's a trip, and I do want you participating, because if you're not there, I feel like it's not much of a purpose to have them, So we'll do that. We'll try, I'll offer all the commissioners, a couple of dates that you're free.
Great.
And we'll try to do look, and even if everybody can't come, we all work full time during the week. If everybody can't come, at least if we meet with most commissioners and get a real good feel, for where most commissioners are kind of at and where the administration's at and where that middle ground is, then hopefully we'll be able to move forward a little more cleaner.
Yeah.
That's good with you?
Great. No, I think it's wonderful. Can I have a flip chart and marker so we can draw? That would be good.
Okay. No, we still have the item that we added to the agenda. Thank you so much, Ms. Christelle. Okay, item 7J was what we amended to add to the agenda, and that was the issue of the concrete lining of the ditch. Mr. Cat gave us, Mr. Catalati gave us a quick little overview. I do see that Mr. Monso is here with Hartman, and you did send us an email this afternoon, right? I hadn't even had time to look at it.
I sent it to Ron.
Right, and Ron sent it to the commission.
I forwarded it out to the commission chair. Yep.
And I will tell you, so I'm before we even get started, I'm in favor of, trying to concrete as much as we can. But I haven't even had time to look at the proposal, yet and see what it is. But in the meantime, Mr. Monso, please go ahead.
So we have an existing concrete ditch right here. This is Spillman Street and Tiffany, and 30 is back, Prepare is back this way. And this lateral is flowing south and then due east to Bayou Francois. And there's a glare right here. So the concrete line stops right here. And the issue that they're having is in this corner right here. You have another lateral coming in, and it's what I think is, and I made a site visit today and took some measurements, but you're getting a lot of erosion in this corner right here. And you could see the concrete riprap right here. So I developed a cost estimate to continue the lining just through this turn, which is about 200 linear feet. And the cost on that, I believe, is in your packet. It was roughly $166,000. That's if we bid this out as a standalone project. And then the fees associated is roughly 100,000, and that includes everything. That's design, bidding, construction administration, and inspection. Now, what I suggested to Ron is, because this is going to take some time, we do have Villas of Galvez, which is a concrete lining project. We're in the final plan stage. So what I suggested, look, let's put it into this bid project. It's going to make things, it's going to speed everything up. We'll actually save some engineering costs, maybe even some construction costs if we put it into one project. So that'd be a suggestion. I haven't ran the numbers, but it's definitely going to be less than 100,000 on the engineering. So, did I talk too fast? I'm trying to speed this meeting up.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr.
I understand wanting to lump these together might help, but I've got constituents barking at me.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
literally,
understand.
because this ditch backs up and yards get flooded, houses get close to getting flooded, and it's from Spillman, Tiffany, and also Eva Street, which is Jack Carter's house, is right there on the bottom of your picture. I guess I'd like to see it move forward, and by way of a motion, I'd like to make a motion that we get Ron to work with Jared and go through the process and come back with we know, say a not to exceed, and go out for bids and see if we can get this thing wrapped up.
Well, I think that's what's on the table, Mr. Cagg, is, that is a proposal from Hartman. I mean, we could look at the numbers.
I'm just saying,
Tighten them
okay,
up.
then I propose a not to exceed 266,000, whatever, but if you can make it less than that, obviously we want to look at that.
So it doesn't matter to you whether or not we put it into another project?
If we can and get it done expediently and cheaper, Mr. President.
So, is this on? Yeah. I would love to put it in to Villa Galvez. We did acquire the Servitude between, the school board has purchased the old Rev or ETEL building. I mean, it's just going to be cheaper if we can lump these together. And so if we're going to do this one and the Villa Galvez, if we can take a look at the courthouse one as well and lump these together, we're going to get a cheaper price, I believe, because they're all going to get bidded at one group. If they know they're just doing these in single shots, it's going to be a little bit more for mobilization, concrete materials, transportation costs. I would love to see us, because we have it in the budget, I'd love to see us knock a few of these out and get them done. And I think with having 2 or 3 of them on, it gives a little more incentive to go ahead and for the contractor, for sure, to go ahead and get this done. So
How about if I
be
change my
support.
motion to have them come back to us next month with, have it itemized and then lump all 3 together?
Okay.
Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah.
And then we can vote on it then?
I'll second that motion, as long as we get a statement of cost-benefit analysis, that it's not going to hurt the people downstream, and it's going to actually create a benefit.
Yeah.
And it should be simple.
I'll make
I
that
do have
motion.
one question. You said it was about 200 feet,
Roughly.
200 feet of linear ditch?
Mhm.
Was that like $1,200–$1,300 a foot?
Yeah.
That is the Bayou Francois lateral there.
What about
That's
that
a
right
major
angle?
lateral. What's that?
That right angle, that's not good for drainage, is it?
No, and then you have that lateral coming on this side, which is basically going against the flow.
Do we need
And
a
it's-
bigger fix there?
Well, and that's part of the channel line. We, depending if we have the servitude, but we're going to kind of curve this one to where it can kind of go into the flow.
We have
You
a
know,
little bit drainage roundabout?
A turbo roundabout, yeah.
So what was the original motion? What was it?
Oh, Dow wants to talk.
Oh.
I amended my motion to say that we're going to get a proposal from them and Ron to itemize each 3, Villa Galvez, this one, and the one by the school, East Ascension, and the courthouse, and then lump them all together and see what the difference is.
Okay, so we're not voting to approve the 260 right now?
No.
Okay.
No, it's just come back to the next meeting with a proposal.
All right, Ms. Weisbeck, you had.
Yeah, I just gotta, I don't know, just looking at that, and so I hear what you're saying, John, like, you know, they're worried about houses flooding, but is just concrete lining that without making it bigger or changing it gonna help that? Because that would be bigger.
Well, number one, it's going to stop the erosion. Now, it's not going to alleviate any, you know, hydraulic issue, meaning if there's any flooding there, this ain't
gonna help it.
No, I mean, it's mostly for the erosion.
Okay.
You know, I guess you'd have to look further downstream. I mean, if we want to look at.
Jared, I would chime in. They just did a rework on Bayou Francois lateral within the last 5 to 10 years. I think what the residents have been seeing is these higher events in the last 2 to 3 years here that is superseding the infrastructure rates that they can get out over a 10-year event. So the main complaint here is is erosion, and what's happening is that corner is just, unfortunately, when they did the original concrete lining, they terminated it right before a curve. And that's really the problem here, is they didn't just get it going around and accelerate around the corner in a straightaway. And so that would be what you would achieve, is eliminating this erosion and restoring that corner transition. We don't do something with it. We've done some things. We put the riprap out there. We've done what we can in operations. It's just not holding up. It's actually moving the riprap. There's about that much water's going through there.
Yeah, hydraulically, it will be better. It will be, but don't expect, you know.
Well, I heard what he was getting barked at. I'm just saying, you know, are we gonna spend that much money and then not get a benefit out of it? I mean, I'm all for controlling the corner. Can we possibly shrink the scope? I mean, if we're not helping going, you know, this doesn't look like you know, like you said, a place where we're concreting it for maintenance purposes. If we're just trying to protect that corner, can we rebuild that corner to, you know, to adjust some things? I mean, I don't know.
We have.
So yeah, that would be part of the next month's communication, I would assume.
Correct.
I'm thinking the engineering is a big part of, if you just want to concrete line this thing to stop erosion, I could do that.
Okay.
We don't need engineering. We're going to engineer this thing to flow better. And
Okay.
if we need to expand it a little bit in the curve, get a little smoother transition, the incoming ditch not to flow exactly against the current, that it can turn with the water. I mean, that's what the engineering's for. If we were just concreting for erosion, I wouldn't need the engineer.
Okay, that's in your current scope, then, to relook at all the flow paths, everything.
Correct.
Okay, all right. I didn't understand that at first. That's why I was asking. Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more comment? Any objection? Hearing none. Motion passes. Motion to adjourn by Mr. Mason. Second by Mr. Cagnolati.